Chapter 112. Because we have experienced birth, old age, sickness, and death. We have experienced raising children. We have experienced the life of the mortal world and the life of an ordinary person. Shuchonglu pondered and said, perhaps this is the real tribulation of the mortal world. Wu Yuding fell into deep thought. So Xiaoduo's birth was definitely an accident. However, this accident that was not part of our plan has instead become the last part of our tribulation transcendence? Shuchonglu smiled helplessly. You have been spoiling him since he was young. You really spoiled him well. Sai, now when I think of you when you are happy, I can't help but give him a nickname. At that time you clearly treated Xiaoduo as a toy. You even played with him since he was young. Tell me, when did I become like you? Wu Yuding pouted, good. You make it sound like I don't really love the child. Shuchonglu laughed and said, don't think about the long term. Don't think about the help of cultivation. The only thing we need to think about is to live our lives seriously. Let nature take its course and we will pass this test. I think that when we pass this test, Xiaoduo and Yan will have grown up. It will be the best of both worlds. Wu Yuding imagined the future. She could not help but smile gently and said, I sincerely hope that these two children can be safe. Shuchonglu nodded and said, actually, the question in my heart is the real puzzle. Normally, we are born in the mortal world. Our cultivation has been locked by the way of heaven. Our luck is still different from ordinary people. The combination of essence, energy, and spirit should be constant. How can there be children under such conditions? Wu Yuding rolled her eyes and did not answer. Shuchonglu muttered to himself, you didn't notice it at that time. It was only 3 months later that you felt something was wrong. Because we didn't think in that direction at all. We all knew that it was impossible. Wu Yuding rolled her eyes again. But there was Xiaoduo. Shuchonglu frowned. After Xiaoduo, we've made a lot of efforts over the years, but nothing happened. Is there really nothing strange about this? Wu Yuding immediately blushed and rolled her eyes even more. I've thought about it over and over again. Shuchonglu had a pensive look on his face as he held Wu Yuding in his arms. Then, he asked in a very serious tone as if he was studying an academic problem, is there something wrong with the posture? Shameless. If there's another one, let's call him Zhuxiaoyu. Get lost. Oh. The next day, in second high, red flags fluttered in the wind, and there was a sea of people. Countless parents rushed into the school grounds of No. 2 High School. Coupled with the music that was being played all around, it was no different from a sports meeting. Many of the students who had been taken away had been released after going through the Crystal Gate and Qingxin Lake. Some of them were still in a state of panic. Naturally, their whole families would participate in the school activities when they had the opportunity. Of course, there were 2 people who didn't come back. Zheng Dai, Cheng Fengji. Zheng Dai and young Master Cheng had died silently in the prison of Star Shield. This matter made Chief Zhang Zhongbin furious, but he had nowhere to vent his anger. He didn't care about Zheng Dai's death. However, Cheng Fengji's death made Chief Zhang fly into a rage. Only this one was confirmed. He wanted to use this as a breakthrough point. However, this one was dead. During this period of time, everyone in Star Shield couldn't even protect themselves. Chief Zhang looked at everyone as if they were spies from the UMNO alliance. The guard on the day of Cheng Fengji's death was immediately thrown into prison by Chief Zhang after the incident. Chief Zhang had also set up an inescapable net to monitor Cheng Fengji's family, waiting for the UMNO alliance to come. In fact, on the night of Cheng Fengji's death, the UMNO alliance did come. 2 masters came in from the left and right. The masters of Star Shield's City Guard's mansion fought with all their might. They fought until the sky turned dark and the sun and moon lost their light. In the end, the 2 masters of the UMNO alliance who couldn't break through the heavy defense chose to retreat. However, when the guards went in to see Cheng Fengji's family again, they were shocked to find that the family, along with the 7 masters of Star Shield who were lying in ambush, were all dead. This wasn't the other party retreating at the right time. They knew that their goal had been achieved and they fled. On the same day, many parts of Phoenix City were set ablaze, and wails and cries were everywhere. All the executives of Cheng Fengji's family company died that night. No one was spared. The headquarters of the Cheng conglomerate's Chinese medicine company was set ablaze. No one knew how many fire starters were thrown into the building. In addition, the fire trucks that rushed over after hearing the news were intercepted on the way. All the fire hydrants within a 6-kilometer radius were destroyed. Therefore, by the time dawn broke the next day, the building had been completely burned into ruins. It was beyond recognition. After the incident, it was speculated that a lot of incendiary materials should have been set up in advance in this building. All these things made Governor Wan Pingyuan's hair stand on end. He shuddered. Perhaps to the people, all this just felt was that something had happened. There was a commotion of fire, people died, and so on. However, anyone with half a brain could think of who could come and go freely in the heavily guarded Star Shield and kill people calmly. Who was it that killed Cheng Fengji's family without a sound? Who could set off a fire in the downtown area and brazenly intercept and kill the fire trucks? As for arranging the incendiary materials in advance and destroying all the fire hydrants, it was simply a trivial matter. However, the most frightening thing was that the people of the UMNO alliance were always able to withdraw the moment their reinforcements arrived. All these meticulous arrangements made Governor Wan feel that his buttocks were sitting on the mouth of a volcano. And this volcano had already begun to erupt. It could burn him to ashes at any time, just like that building. It seems that the entire Phoenix City has been infiltrated into a sieve. Governor Wan had to admit this point. When he asked for help from the higher-ups, he said very clearly, the people of the UMNO alliance have been dormant for a long time, but when they move, they will shock the heavens. Based on the commotion they created in Phoenix City, you can imagine their hidden combat power. What's more, you can imagine that they must have bigger moves behind them. I suspect that the UMNO alliance has a huge plan. I request that the higher-ups focus on the old principle, He-Yuanyua's theory of the Phoenix vein. Something big will happen in Phoenix City soon. Please pay attention to it. Wan Pingyuan finally made this decision, although it was a very difficult thing for him to do. For the officials in charge of the government to be in such a state of chaos, it was already hard for them to absolve themselves from the blame. Who didn't want to govern peacefully? If they could suppress something, who would want to report it? It was better to report the good news than the bad news. It was better to seek no merit than to seek no fault. This was the unspoken rule of the government. But now Wan Pingyuan didn't dare to suppress it anymore. Right now his heart was palpitating with fear. Phoenix City, this tiny place, what was it hiding? How could it make the UMNO alliance send so many people here? The current situation was very obvious. Things were far from starting. The leader of the UMNO alliance hadn't arrived yet. But even so, the situation had already reached the point where it was close to getting out of control. Then, when the other party's plan really started, what kind of situation would Phoenix City become? Wan Pingyuan didn't even dare to think about it. He could only vaguely feel that an unprecedented bloody storm was about to start in Phoenix City. As for how big this storm was, no one dared to make wild guesses. He-Yuanyua's many years of hard work to no avail. Zhuoxiaoduo, this little butterfly, just lightly flapped its wings, and it started flapping. Maybe it was a coincidence, or maybe it was the right time. But all of this was because of such a ridiculous little thing that the curtain was pulled open. Time, fate, and luck. After a series of actions, the UMNO alliance had already retracted their claws and teeth after achieving their goals. They, who had paid a considerable price, were also licking their wounds. The governor's office, city guards, and Star Shield were even more on guard. I really don't dare to trust anyone now. Director Zhang reported to his superior, Star Shield, the army, the city guards, the governor's office, the inspection bureau. I suspect that they have all been infiltrated by the UMNO alliance. Even within the Phoenix City Star Shield, there is most likely a traitor. I don't dare to trust anyone. Please send an expert to assist. Focus on the matter of the Phoenix vein that the old principal He-Yuanyua mentioned before. I request the superiors to pay attention to this matter. The UMNO alliance, the Big Dipper, and the Southern Dipper are all gathered here. How can this be a small matter? I request that the most powerful person be sent here. I request that the Dragon Blood team be stationed in Phoenix City. Director Zhang held the phone and was almost shouting. His shiny scalp was covered in sweat. He pulled out a few strands of hair on both sides of his head. I request immediately. Now. Immediately. Quickly. Originally, for the sake of the old principal, Director Zhang, Director Sun, and Governor Wan had to be present for this grand event. But now Phoenix City was in a mess. Chief Jiang, Governor Wan, and everyone else was already in a terrible fix. In fact, they had no time to attend this commendation ceremony. The only one who came was Director Sun from the Martial Arts Department. But even Director Sun who came did not look good. After he arrived, he went straight to Hyunua's office to report the current situation. Finally, it's going to be revealed. After listening to Director Sun, Hyunua was stunned for a long time. After a while she took a deep breath. Her gaze was complicated. It's not that the higher-ups don't believe what I said. It's just that. It's not that bad yet. The old lady smiled bitterly. Teacher, what do you think? Director Sun said carefully. Forget it. Hyunua was in a daze for a long time. Then she said slowly, hopefully, it's not too late. Zhou Chonglu and Wu Yuding walked into the school with Zhou Xiaonian, causing waves of exclamations. More in the afternoon. So hot. I'm going to get a heat stroke. So please subscribe to the recommendation tickets. Chapter 113. Zhou Chonglu's suit was well ironed, and his leather shoes were shiny. He was dressed in branded goods. Coupled with his tall and straight figure, he was really handsome. His wife Wu Yuding, who was in his left hand, was even more eye-catching. Wu Yuding, who had specially dressed up, was even more beautiful. She really looked like a fairy descending to the mortal world. The couple walked all the way, looking like a celestial couple. At first glance, people were so envious that they drooled. Zhou Xiaonian, who was on the right side of the couple, was inconspicuous at this moment. Zhou Xiaonian didn't dare to expose her identity as the heavenly daughter of spiritual thoughts. She was now dressed as an ordinary delicate girl. She wore a decent branded dress, but her appearance alone was not as eye-catching as Zhou Chonglu and Wu Yuding. Although she had to make herself ugly before coming, Zhou Xiaonian was already very satisfied, because Mu Yanyan didn't allow her to come at all. She had to beg hard before she was allowed to come with makeup. According to Mu Yanyan's original intention, she wanted her to dress up as an ugly person. But Zhou Xiaonian refused. My father is so handsome, and my mother is so beautiful. The girl they gave birth to can't be too ugly. If she's too ugly, it will attract other people's attention and reveal flaws, Zhou Xiaonian argued. Mu Yanyan also considered that if her appearance was too extreme, it would indeed have the opposite effect. So she reluctantly agreed. Zhou Zhonglu and Wu Yuding walked in. Such a person, such an appearance, such a temperament, and such a style of conversation naturally became the focus of everyone. Many parents came over to chat with them. After knowing that Zhou Chonglu and Wu Yuding were the parents of Zhou Xiaoduo, who was highlighted this time, these people were so envious that their eyes turned blue. What kind of world is this? The couple is so outstanding, and their son is also so outstanding that I'm so angry. I'm so angry. Many parents glared fiercely at their sons' faces and buttocks. Look at him. And then look at you. It's fine if we can't compare to their parents, but you can't even compare to their son. I can't take it anymore. I must teach him a lesson when I get back. A little fatty was already crying. Amidst the commotion, the little fatty was so aggrieved that he could not speak. Look at my parents. Look at all of you. How can you blame me? This is a genetic problem. Look at you guys. I know that when I grow up, I'll probably have problems finding a wife. Look at Zhou Xiaoduo's parents. Take a good look at them. How can their son not be outstanding? This is the difference. This is the victory of genes. How can you blame me for this? Why are you hitting me again? Are you being unreasonable? All around, the parents who heard these words had complicated expressions on their faces. Hearing this, the children all gave the little fatty a thumbs up. Bro, you've got guts. You said what we wanted to say but didn't dare to. You're a real man. Don't worry if you're beaten to death today, we'll all go to your grave tomorrow. Amidst the hustle and bustle, the school's loudspeaker finally sounded. This thing was set up near the field today. The rostrum and other things were already in place. As the passionate music resounded, everyone who heard it felt their blood boil. They couldn't wait to walk up to the stage and take all the glory for themselves. All the parents went forward with complicated expressions on their faces. The rows of seats had already been arranged neatly according to the class seating arrangement. It was arranged neatly and not messily. The assembly is about to begin. Parents and students, please take your seats as soon as possible. It had to be said that the martial arts school was quite efficient in this aspect. Not long after, everyone had taken their seats. Zhou Chonglu, Wu Yuding, and Zhou Xiaonian sat in the front row. Their faces were full of glory and radiance. The chairs in the front row were all red. They were spacious and comfortable. There was even a red carpet under their feet. The most important thing was that there were only a total of 10 seats. It was very eye-catching. The Zhou family occupied 3 seats in the middle. It was even more eye-catching. This is really high-spirited. Who else but me? The music kept ringing. The school leaders began to take their seats on the rostrum. Of course, the seat in the middle was taken by Director Sun of the Martial Arts Educational Bureau. However, Director Sun felt like he was sitting on pins and needles. Yuanyue was also here. She was watching with a smile on her face. Director Sun felt like he had hemorrhoids. If other alumni knew that he had driven the old principal aside during the school event, he would probably be hung up to dry on the same day. Although it was the old principal who insisted on not sitting here and insisted that he sit here, those guys who would reason with you. Especially those bastards who were still in the Sun Moon Pass. Director Sun's but twisted and turned like he had hemorrhoids. He felt uncomfortable all over. However, Li Chongjiang and several vice principals who were sitting next to him all turned a blind eye to him. They completely ignored Director Sun's pleading gaze. Finally, there was a scapegoat sitting there. It would be strange if they would change seats with you. Besides, you are also a leader. Who asked you to be the director of the Martial Arts Educational Bureau? If you don't take this seat, who will? If it were me, Li Chongjiang, I don't want to die yet. You can't die without me. Li Chongjiang's face was sanctimonious. However, he was very happy in his heart. Damn you, Monkey Sunday. Who asked you to show off your authority in front of me every day? Just take it. Today I will treat you as a joke. How about it? Li Chongjiang said a few opening remarks. Then it was Director Sun's turn to speak. It was the so-called leader's speech. Director Sun breathed a sigh of relief. He quickly stood up and took the microphone from Li Chongjiang's hand. He walked out of his seat and stood up. Then he gave a passionate and emotional speech. Especially, he emphasized on the old principal's cultivation and how grateful he was. This speech alone took more than 15 minutes. In the end, his eyes turned red. He kept looking at the video of the Martial Arts Educational Bureau. Zoom in. Close up. Focus on my eyes. Take a shot of my tears. Take a shot of my true feelings. Otherwise, those guys will definitely kill me. The one who recorded the video, you have to be sensible today. The Martial Arts Educational Bureau's videographer understood what he meant. He took a few steps back and lowered his body. He covered the entire banners and the entire venue. He could only hear Director Sun's earth-shattering voice. However, his face could not be seen clearly. From afar, he could only see Director Sun's towering figure. Standing on the stage, he looked even more mighty and powerful. He had the aura of a king descending to the world. As these thoughts flashed through his mind, Director Sun's vision turned black. It's over. Recording, you're not helping me or flattering me. You're sending me to the gates of hell. I will look at the school's video later. This guy, I will fire him when I get back. They even said that they found the smartest guy to follow me. What the hell is this smartest guy? This is clearly the type that will get me killed. Could it be that this guy belongs to the UMNO Alliance? Is he here to destroy our internal unity? Director Sun was originally impassioned. However, towards the end he felt like he was on his last breath. Even his face was a little pale. He forced himself to say a few more words before he ended his speech. Hu Ruoyun stood beside He Yuanyue with a glowing face. She covered her mouth and laughed. Teacher I know very well what Monkey Sun is afraid of. He Yuanyue also smiled. This guy's monkey nature doesn't change. This is very normal. If he thinks too much, it will cause trouble. If he was just sitting there calmly, no one would think anything of it. But he was twisting his butt, changing his expression and looking left and right. Those guys could tell at a glance what he was afraid of. How could they not take advantage of the situation and mess with him? Under such circumstances, it would be a waste not to mess with him. If they mess with him, wouldn't it be a waste? Looks like this guy is doomed to be beaten up. Hu Ruoyun laughed. Ruoyun, how is your situation now? What is your specific cultivation level? He Yuanyue asked. Teacher, I am now walking on the path of thorns. I have already reached the 3rd level. Hu Ruoyan said. Originally, with the effect of the Supreme Dan and the Star Soul Grass, there was still a lot left. It was enough to directly break through the embryonic breathing stage. However, it is better to take the path of thorns step by step. It is inevitable that your foundation will be damaged. He Yuanyue nodded and said, this is the best choice. Ruoyan, no matter how hard it is, you have to accumulate more than 6 levels. Then you can rush through the path of thorns in one go. Only then can you go further. Yes, I understand. The stage had already reached the commendation segment. The topic of the speech was back to Li Changjiang. Zhuo Xiaoduo Long Yuxing Wan Li Xiao Yu Moyan Li Changming Li Chenglong. These 6 students are especially outstanding. They have successfully broken through and advanced to the next level before the end of the warrior class. The 6 students who advanced to the next level this time are rare in the history of the 2nd high school. Teacher Qin Fongyang of the 9th class has contributed the most to this. Other than that, many other students in the 9th class are also on the verge of a breakthrough. Among them, Zhuo Xiaoduo is the most outstanding. Li Changjiang began to praise Zhuo Xiaoduo. This was naturally a segment that had been arranged beforehand. Even though they knew this, Zhuo Chonglu, Wu Yuding, and Zhuo Xiaonian still stood up straight with smiles on their faces. After Zhuo Xiaoduo broke through to the martial warrior level, he has been cultivating with all his might. In just a few days, he has broken through to the martial master level and even reached the peak of the martial master level. This is 2 consecutive leaps. This is a rare miracle in 100 years. Principal Li's voice was unusually excited. Below the stage, Zhuo Xiaoduo, who was waiting to receive the award, puffed out his chest. He was elated and high-spirited. Li Changjiang's tone changed and became serious. Perhaps everyone doesn't know, but Zhuo Xiaoduo comes from an extremely poor family. According to him, his father had to sell his blood to pay for his school fees. His mother had to fight with others to carry gunny sacks and do manual labor in order to raise enough money for his school fees. Moreover, he has an older sister who has cerebral palsy since childhood. Zhuo Chonglu was dumbfounded. Wu Yuding was confused. Zhuo Xiaonian was annoyed. Zhuo Chonglu and Wu Yuding looked at each other and saw the meaning in each other's eyes. Is he talking about my family? Chapter 114. After hearing Headmaster Li's words, all the parents instinctively did the same thing. They turned their heads in unison and looked at Wu Yuding and her husband. Dressed in a well-ironed suit, shiny leather shoes and branded clothing, he looked graceful and luxurious. Was this the kind of attire that could be obtained by selling blood and carrying bricks all year round? Looking at his face, it was full of radiance and color. There was not even a single wrinkle on his face. Even if his attire was rented, with his complexion and appearance, how could he be someone who sold blood and carried bricks all year round? And the girl next to the couple, although her looks were average, she looked very energetic. She did not seem to have cerebral palsy at all. For a moment, everyone's eyes were filled with amusement. Li Changjiang continued. It was under such difficult circumstances that Zhuo Xiaoduo worked hard and accumulated a lot of experience. He broke through the barrier from martial disciple to martial warrior in one fell swoop. In less than a week, he broke through the bottleneck of martial master and reached an even higher realm. This kind of unremitting spirit in adversity is something that we can all learn from. Since Zhuo Xiaoduo only trained in the martial warrior class for a week, the school has decided to refund all of Zhuo Xiaoduo's martial warrior class tuition fees. In addition, due to the special circumstances of Zhuo Xiaoduo's family, the school has decided to waive all of Zhuo Xiaoduo's martial warrior class tuition fees. In addition, we will give Zhuo Xiaoduo a scholarship of 10,000 yuan as a personal reward for Zhuo Xiaoduo. Our second high has never rejected any students. Talented students who come to our second high will naturally receive the corresponding preferential treatment. Our second high school has enough teachers and resources for cultivation. This time, the reason why the UMNO Alliance chose second high is because there have been countless outstanding talents from second high in all fields of the empire. Below the stage, Hu Ruoyan was so angry that her face was flushed red. Her chest was almost puffed up. Her eyes were spitting fire as she looked at Li Changjiang on the stage. The anger in her heart was about to erupt. This is too much. This is too much. Li Changjiang, if you don't want to refund the money, just say so. If you don't want to give me a discount, then don't give me a discount. If you don't want to give me a scholarship, then don't give me one. Why did he have to make trouble at this time? Doesn't he know how much harm this will cause to the child? I'm so angry. I won't spare him no matter what. I want to live apart from him. Let's start dividing today. Hu Ruoyun gritted her teeth. He Yuanyue looked thoughtfully at Li Changjiang on the stage and murmured, calm down. Perhaps. Changjiang really doesn't know about this. Even if he really didn't know, he still made such a big mistake. What do you think Xiao Duo will do in the future? How can such a young child bear such embarrassment? Hu Ruoyun was on the verge of tears. Beside him, Qin Fengyang's face was also deathly pale. Principal Li. Did he really not know about the real situation of Zhou Xiaoduo's family? Now let's invite the student representative Zhou Xiaoduo to come on stage to receive the award and give a speech. At this point, Li Changjiang had finished speaking according to the script. However, as soon as he finished speaking, his face suddenly turned pale. It was even paler than Qin Fengyang's. This was because he saw the most outstanding couple in the front row suddenly stand up. The moment he turned his head, he saw Zhou Xiaoduo dressed in bright clothes, but his face was as pale as paper. His whole body was trembling like a quail in the cold wind. Li Changjiang's brain suddenly fell into a state of crash, or rather it went blank. This is bad. It's over. It's a mistake. This brat was lying about his family's situation and it's over. It's all over now. He really did not know about Zhou Xiaoduo's family situation. With Principal Li's status and experience, if this had happened to any other child in second high, Li Changjiang would have done a thorough investigation of the other party's background. There was no way he would have made such a big mistake. However, after he Yuanyue hid Zhou Xiaonian's information, even Zhou Chonglu and his wife's information was blocked. Therefore, Li Changjiang really did not know about the specific situation of the Zhou family. Coincidentally, when he mentioned to Zhou Xiaoduo about the school assembly and the award, Zhou Xiaoduo was stingy about activating his innate talent. Instead, he was possessed by a movie star and pretended to be a poor kid. He worked tirelessly and even described his family members to be miserable. This led to this tear-inducing, but actually false article. However, in this situation, even with Principal Li's experience, he still did not know what to do. He really did not know how to end this. That under everyone's gaze, Zhou Chonglu and Wu Yuding stood up slowly. The husband and wife had smiles on their faces. Their faces were calm and proud as they clapped for their son. The man was handsome, and the woman was graceful. Both of them were calm and composed, indifferent and carefree. There was only pride, only glory. There was no awkwardness at all. The couple slowly turned around and faced all the parents and students with smiles on their faces. They smiled and waved their hands calmly. It was as if the incident just now was just an insignificant interlude. It was as if nothing had happened. We are just here to enjoy the glory that my son has brought to me. This is my son, my glory, my pride. My son's achievements are enough for me to be proud of and brag about for the rest of my life. Zhou Xiaoduo looked at his father's tall and straight figure. His flustered and embarrassed heart suddenly calmed down. His back was like a high mountain, blocking all the raging waves that were rushing towards him. As long as Daddy is here, I won't feel afraid at all. This is the ultimate safety. I have Daddy. I have Mommy. It's so good to have both of you. Zhou Chonglu waved and smiled. His handsome and sunny face was full of gentleness and calmness. He slowly turned around and looked at his son and his wife. They were applauding and looking at him with encouragement and glory. Go, Daddy and Mommy are here. We believe that you can handle it well. It's just an insignificant embarrassment. Even if you can't handle it well, Daddy and Mommy will still be here to support you. Daddy will bear all the storms for you. We won't be angry and we won't feel awkward because you are my son. Zhou Xiaoduo suddenly felt a burst of emotion in his heart and almost shed tears. This is my daddy. This is my mommy. The warmth flowed through his heart. At this moment he just wanted to rush into his parents' arms and cry and say that he was wrong. He would never lie or be greedy again. But now was not the time. There was still a big mess waiting for him to clean up. This was all his fault. Under Hu Ruoyun's extremely worried gaze and Wu Yuding's extremely gentle and encouraging gaze, Zhuo Xiaoduo slowly stood up straight. He raised his head and smiled again. It was a confident and somewhat embarrassed smile. He took large strides and walked towards the stage. Zhuo Xiaoyan looked at her brother's footsteps. The first step was a little hesitant. The second and third steps were already big strides. The fourth step was even more resolute. Although it was only a few steps in Zhuo Xiaoyan's eyes, it was as if she could see Xiaoduo's mental journey. Zhuo Xiaoduo did not stop. He went straight to Li Changjiang. Under Li Changjiang's extremely complicated gaze, Zhuo Xiaoduo smiled and took the microphone. His first sentence was a slightly embarrassed laugh. "Everyone, I'm really sorry. I really didn't expect that my casual lie would be taken seriously by the principal. It's embarrassing, really embarrassing, haha." Although he said it was embarrassing, there was no embarrassment on his face. Instead, he looked very calm. The bright smile that flowed from the corners of his mouth immediately attracted the eyes of many young girls in the school. "It's really embarrassing to talk about my family background. The root cause is that I can't bear to pay. Haha, students who are familiar with me all know that I'm really stingy. I can't wait to split $1 in half. That day when I was paying the tuition fee, the teacher asked me why I was so late in paying the fees. So I lied. I said that my family was very poor, and the teacher took it seriously. Then the principal took it seriously. Then it led to this scene today. It seems that the old saying is true. A lie needs 100 lies or even more to make up for it. It's tiring, exhausting, and exhausting." At this moment there was laughter from the audience. Many female parents looked at Zhuo Xiaoduo with smiles in their eyes and murmured, "This little naughty monkey seems to be someone who doesn't know his place." However, their eyes were full of love and no disgust. Because this child had resolved half of the embarrassment with his own responsibility and calmness. "Of course it's a lie, a complete lie. My family is not poor. We're not poor at all, but I'm reluctant to spend money." Zhuo Xiaoduo faced everyone and said loudly, "I've always known how hard it is to earn money. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen it with my own eyes. My mother takes care of the house and calculates every expense carefully. My parents are ordinary people, but they have to raise me, a martial arts practitioner who is almost like a gold-swallowing beast. They're really very tired. I've seen it all, so I have a little bit of obsession with money. Yes, I value money very much. Because it's too difficult to earn." Zhuo Xiaoduo's words had undoubtedly resonated with many of the parents present. Yes, the resources required to nurture a martial artist were indeed far from what an ordinary family could afford. Not to mention the tuition fees, which were many times more expensive than other schools, not to mention the resources required to cultivate just food. Some families would not be able to provide for it. Today was the birthday of both Feng Amnesia and Qiu Shui. Therefore, I'll update another chapter for the two leaders. Cough cough, there's no such thing as adding more chapters on birthdays in the future. Today is a special occasion, so I'll add more chapters. Chapter 115. The intensity of a martial artist's daily training, compared to an ordinary person, could easily consume tens of times, or even tens of times more. And this group of half-grown brats whose cultivation was neither too high nor too low, after a day of physical exhaustion, their appetite was especially astonishing. Not to mention those high-grade ingredients that contain spirit energy, even the most ordinary rice would fill an ordinary person after eating 2 bowls. But for a martial artist, even if he ate 20 bowls, he might not be full. And what about the dishes? There was more. The eyes of many parents of ordinary students turned red. When they looked at Zhuo Xiaoduo on the stage, their previous astonishment and disdain were no longer there. Instead, they were a little envious. So what if they were a little embarrassed? Look at this kid, he knew that money was hard to come by, he knew how to use it, he knew how to sympathize with his parents, and he knew how to save money for his family. This was clearly a sensible child. And most importantly, this kid was able to save money for his family. Not counting the 10,000 yuan scholarship, just the return tuition fees for the martial artist class, and the fully waived tuition fees for the martial arts master class were already quite a large sum. Zhuo Xiaoduo smiled calmly and said, I did lie at that time, and I'm not afraid to admit it. If the school had said that they would waive my tuition fees because of my poverty, I definitely wouldn't have hesitated and directly took the money home. A burst of laughter rang out. Even though I know it's immoral and I'm taking advantage of the other party's sympathy, and I'm ashamed of myself, I don't want my father to be so tired. Swishaoduo said loudly, in the end, I've suffered retribution because of this lie, and now it is. To me, I'm still a child who hasn't grown up. I'm heartless and don't care if I'm shameless. A beating and scolding will be enough. But this matter at this moment has made my parents feel very embarrassed. For this, I'm sincerely ashamed. This is my fault and it's completely my own actions. My parents shouldn't bear this responsibility for me. I should bear this responsibility myself. He bowed deeply. Dad, Mom, I'm sorry. I lied. I've wronged you. Suddenly, Wu Yuting's eyes turned red. The eyes of countless mothers below the stage also turned red at the same time. This sentence almost hit the hearts of all the mothers. Zhuochanglu was still smiling, and his eyes were filled with gratification. Child, today you have what a man should have. This was called responsibility. Countless fathers looked enviously at Swishaoduo, who was on the stage. It was never a big deal for a child to brag or lie, but for a child to be able to face this responsibility head-on, and even bear this responsibility, just this responsibility alone was a big deal. This was something that every mature man knew. Zhuoxiaonian looked at Swishaoduo on the stage with pride. She was the only one who knew and understood it the most. She knew infinitely what kind of transformations Swishaoduo had undergone when he walked up the stage from below. This was the transformation of a boy into a man. There were many men who lived their entire lives, and they might still be boys, men, but they were not men. Similarly, many children could be called men from the age of 10. The difference between the two could be described in 2 words: take responsibility. Those who took responsibility were men, and those who did not take responsibility were still boys, or at least not men. When Swishaoduo went on stage, took the microphone, and faced all the students and parents of the school, Zhuoxiaonian almost thought that she was seeing her own father, Zhuochanglu. He was so calm and unrestrained, so graceful and elegant. He was always so calm and unperturbed, with a calm and elegant smile on his lips, bearing all the wind and rain in the world. Being by his side was always safe and comfortable, and could be carefree forever. And Swishaoduo, from now on, had vaguely possessed this characteristic. Although he was still very young and far from being mature, he had already begun to grow. This was without a doubt. This was Zhuoxiaoduo's 4th transformation. The incident was very awkward and it came suddenly. But it was this sudden incident that made Zhuoxiaoduo's state of mind take a big step forward. Li Changjiang breathed a sigh of relief, and Qin Fengyang's eyes were full of admiration. Hu Ruoyan was even smiling, as if her own son had grown up overnight. He Yuanyue, who was in the wheelchair, was full of admiration, heartfelt admiration. Under everyone's gaze, Zhuochanglu laughed and said loudly, "You are indeed my son. Son, no matter if you are lying or fooling around, what you said today has really made me proud. Even if you have countless achievements, scholarships, tuition waivers, all of these added together are not as good as what you said today. They are not as good as what you said today." And Mom. Wu Yuting's eyes were red, and she waved at Swishaoduo. "We are proud of you." He turned around and smiled proudly. Then he waved at the crowd. Once again she received a lot of admiring gazes. Many parents lowered their heads and looked at their son, who still looked like a little quail. Then they looked at Swishaoduo, who admitted his mistake and bravely took responsibility for it. He used his own responsibility and carefree attitude to turn bad things into pride. They could not help but sigh. Sigh. I can't compare to the older one, and it seems that I can't compare to the younger one either. Zhuoxiaonian wanted to jump up and shout that there was still sister. Zhuoxiaoduo's sister was also very outstanding, and she definitely did not have cerebral palsy. She could not even think about it. Her heart was full of gentleness and satisfaction, and she definitely could not shout that she had cerebral palsy. Besides, if I can't shout that, there is still sister. If I shout that, what if the group of hooligans in school pester my dog? I still have to be on guard in the future. How can my identity as sister be enough? I will go back and talk to him about cerebral palsy. Zhuoxiaoduo bowed on the stage. After a long time, he straightened his back and said, "A mistake is a mistake. The most important thing is to admit your mistakes and correct them. The premise is that you still made a mistake. There is no need to say anything more. Everyone, don't think that my parents are proud or whatever. Don't believe them. They are just polite words or the so-called routine. When I go back, I will not be able to run away from a mixed double beating." Ha 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 ha. There was a burst of laughter. Wu Yuding bit her lip and smiled. "Little brat, you still know that you are going to be beaten. Before this conference I have carefully prepared a speech. But after being scared just now, I am not in the mood. Otherwise, I will not follow the speech. I will just say a few words casually." Qin Fengyang looked at the prepared speech in his hand, and his face was full of speechlessness. "If you want to improvise, you should have said so earlier. Actually, I am not a genius. This is not being humble or polite, and it is not a routine. The truth is that I have been repeating 5 years in the martial disciple class. Including the normal school year, it is a total of 6 years. For a family, this is equivalent to paying an extra 5 years of school fees. If it were any other family, perhaps my parents would have made the decision to transfer me to a liberal arts school. But my parents did not. They watched me struggle. They did not encourage me, nor did they discourage me. They only supported me in school as usual. It was as if repeating a year was a normal situation. These years of school life were as calm as water. There was no change at all. I shamelessly went to the martial disciple class. I felt that I could succeed. But the pressure in my heart was far beyond your imagination. Every time I returned home, I saw my parents joking with me as usual. They gave me nicknames and ordered me to do this and that. I felt that nothing had changed. I was not despised by anyone because of my poor aptitude. My parents' support could be compared to the world's disdain. So I endured. I endured for 5 years. Perhaps it had something to do with the accumulation of these years. After I broke through the martial disciples' meridians, my vitality was still surging. In a few days I broke through all the bottlenecks and broke through the martial master bottleneck. At this conference to honor geniuses, I feel that I am unworthy. Zhuo Duo said proudly. However, the school refunded my school fees. I will not pay them back. Also, the reduced tuition and scholarship I will also. Zhuo Duo paused for a moment and said loudly, "I will not refuse." Damn. This turn of events almost threw me off. You're really talented. Ha 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 ha. Zhuo Duo felt that he had said enough. He said, "Actually, my experience in cultivation is only a very, very small opinion. Even to myself, it is not worth mentioning." At this moment, Qin Fengyang felt that something was wrong. On the other side, Li Changjiang also felt that something was wrong. Sure enough, Zhuo Duo said happily, "Actually, my greatest achievement in this half of my life is not related to martial arts, but to physiognomy. Based on your physiognomy, I can tell that your past life and present life are full of misfortunes and blessings. Just a word of life and death is absolutely correct." The audience booed at the right time. Zhuo Duo didn't care about this and continued, "It's not your fault that you don't believe me. If it was someone else who said this, I most likely wouldn't believe it either. But what you don't know is that my teacher is here right now. My unique skill of fortune-telling was taught by our second middle school's headmaster He. It was her who taught me this skill. But for now, I can only see the surface. I still need to learn more from the old headmaster. In the future, when I say life and death, even the winds and clouds of heaven and earth are in my hands, it is just a small matter." This time it was really incredible. Li Changjiang was stunned. Qin Fengyang was dumbstruck. Hu Ruoyun was tongue-tied. This kid was really daring. But there was really no way to refute him. This was because Zhuo Duo was receiving He Yuanyue's teachings every afternoon. Among them, there was a part related to fortune-telling. How could he refute that? He Yuanyue also widened her eyes. "I only taught you how to look at qi. When did I teach you fortune-telling? There's one thing, all the brothers and sisters who receive the divine light, you must register in the group before you can receive the gift. If you don't join the group, I can't contact you. The website won't help us get the address for our Feng family's event. I say, why are you all so calm? Join the group, brothers. Join the group. 1090 number 866 hashtag number 686. Chapter 116. He Yuanyue recalled what she said the other day. Physiognomy is more effective and comprehensive when combined with aura observation. He Yuanyue couldn't help but smile bitterly. This frisky monkey. The moment Swishaoduo's words came out, everyone present was shocked. What kind of status did He Yuanyue have? In Phoenix City, he was a living god. Anyone who was qualified enough to know about her would treat her with respect and love. In addition, He Yuanyue was at the scene now. If she lied, she would be exposed immediately. This kid definitely wouldn't dare to lie at this critical juncture. Everyone turned to look at He Yuanyue in the wheelchair. What they saw was He Yuanyue's bitter smile. Was this a tacit agreement? That was the truth. This kid was actually the successor of the old principal. What kind of fate was this? It was too much of a stroke of good fortune. Outside the venue, Lu Jiansheng and the rest who were in charge of security were also dumbfounded. No wonder young Master Zhua is so powerful. He's the successor of the old principal. No wonder Principal Li didn't let us tell anyone. I understand now. What else is there to understand? On the rostrum, Li Changjiang was also speechless. Your bug-like skill. I did everything I could to help you hide it, afraid that it would be disadvantageous to you if others knew about it. In the end, you advertised yourself in front of tens of thousands of people. What the hell is this? The shadow in Principal Li's heart was enough to cover the entire continent. If there's anything you don't understand in the future, whether it's life, love, or anything else, you can come and find me. It's fate that brought us together today. We'll be a family from now on. I'll definitely do my best to tell you everything I know. Yes, I have to emphasize something here. Regarding the cost, I was too embarrassed to mention it, but fortune-telling is also known as fortune-telling. Giving it to you for free is like giving your life away. It's not a good idea. So if you come and find me for anything, we'll just charge based on your family's situation. No credit. That's not good for either of us. Everyone understands, right? Swishaoduo's face was not red nor was he out of breath. He was calm and composed as he spoke frankly with assurance. Actually, everyone can see that I'm a person with extraordinary talent. I'm a responsible person. I even know how to read faces. On the rostrum, Li Changjiang turned off Swishaoduo's microphone and said loudly into his own microphone, "Next, we'll proceed to the third segment. Students, please come up to the stage to receive your prize." It was a pity that he turned off the microphone too late. Most of the audience had already believed him. In Phoenix City, no one dared to use He Yuanyue's name as a joke, especially under the premise that He Yuanyue herself was present at the scene. It seemed that this was Swishaoduo's real ability. In Uniways, many were already planning started making plans. Perhaps they were just to seek to give them a look, or even to seek help them feel at ease. If they wanted to ask for good or ill luck, the old principal would naturally be their first choice. However, they definitely wouldn't dare to look for the old principal. The old principal's body was very weak. If they were to disturb her seeking for peace of mind, the people from Second High would definitely beat them to death. However, it was different to look for this Swishaoduo. He said that they could look for him as long as they paid him. Well, this matter could be settled. It just so happens that I haven't been feeling too good recently. Amidst the passionate music, Swishaoduo, Long Yuxing, and the others received their prizes. Thanks to Swishaoduo, Long Yuxing and the other four received a scholarship of 5,000 star dollars each. This result made Swishaoduo very envious. These kids actually received more than me combined. And it's so much more. Swishaoduo was very worried. Long Yuxing and the others are still kids. Will they be safe with so much money? Will they spend it recklessly? Will they learn bad things? Master Zhua thought for a long time. He felt that this money was the most reassuring in his own hands. However, they probably wouldn't give it to him. What should he do? It seemed that he had to come up with a good idea. After the competition, the school held a banquet and invited all the parents who were present. Zhua Chonglu and Wu Yuding were naturally the first guests of honor. As for Zhua Xiaonian, she excused herself by saying that she had something to do. During the banquet, Li Changjiang apologized again and again. Zhua Chonglu and Wu Yuding were very happy and gratified. They didn't care about these things and just laughed it off. Swishaoduo and the others didn't receive such treatment at the banquet. They were all brought back by Qin Fangyang and trained for the whole morning. Then they practiced together. The Zhuo Duo card cheat device came into play again. The 5 of them benefited at the same time. However, what surprised Qin Fangyang was that the one who improved the most was Li Chenglong. One had to know that Li Chenglong had shown a momentum of improvement over the past few days. In yesterday's sparring session, Li Chenglong had almost defeated Li Zhongming. This situation made Li Changming and the others nervous. They practiced even harder. In the afternoon, Zhuo Duo followed Qin Fangyang to Hiyunua's office as usual. As soon as they entered, they saw Hiyunua's bitter face. "You little monkey." Sigh. Seeing how miserable his beloved was, Qin Fangyang naturally slapped the back of Zhuo head without saying a word. "Who asked you to mess around?" Zhuo Duo, who knew the truth behind Qin Fangyang's actions, was speechless. "Teacher Qin has been slapping me recently, and it's getting easier and easier for him." During today's practice of hidden weapons, Sister Lan started to fight back. As long as Zhuo's hidden weapons were not fast enough or accurate enough, he would be beaten until he couldn't get up. Hiyuanhua had set up the aura observation technique very strictly for the last lesson before school ended. Even though Zhuo Duo could remember everything he saw and heard, his comprehension ability had not reached the level of knowing everything just by listening. In the end, Sister Lan attacked again. She called it mind cleansing. Sister Lan's mind cleansing was simple and crude. She created a big basin of ice and sealed Zhuo's cultivation. If he was slow in understanding, he would be pressed into the basin to wake up. When school was over, the old principal asked Zhuo Duo to use the aura observation technique to check the weather of the trees in second high. "Oh God, oh Earth, I've only learned it for 2 days. Help!" Zhuo Duo wailed in his heart. In the end, he couldn't see anything. Oh, it wasn't that he couldn't see anything. Zhuo Duo could only see one thing: green and full of vitality. However, this thought was met with a harsh reprimand from Sister Lan. "How dare you say something that even an ordinary person can tell?" When Zhuo Duo was dragged out by Qin Fangyang, Long Yuxing and the others felt as if they had eaten ice cream on a hot day. It was so comfortable. Now Zhuo Duo was a huge swollen ball. He was twice as miserable as Li Chenglong. Seeing Zhuo Duo come out swollen like a rubber ball, Long Yuxing and the others beamed with joy and surrounded him. "Teacher Qin, who is this person? He's so round and chubby. It's quite pleasant. This is the real swollen ball." "Oh!" The few of them laughed like geese. Zhuo Duo was weak and his eyes were fierce. "Just you wait. We'll meet again. See you in the martial arts world." "TSK meet what? Even if we don't wait, do you think you won't beat us up tomorrow?" In life, the most important thing is to have fun. Wan Lixio wrinkled her nose. "We're already like this. Do you think we'll be afraid of you?" As she spoke, she stretched out her foot and kicked Zhuo's swollen shoulder. "So swollen here." "Ouch, okay. Just you wait." Zhuo Duo was extremely sad and angry. Today, a dragon in the shallows would be teased by shrimps. A tiger in the plains would be bullied by dogs. Master Zhuo would remember this. When Zhuo Duo returned to the classroom to heal his injuries, Long Yuxing and the others had already left. Zhuo Duo returned home unhappily. Another expected and reasonable battle was waiting for him in full battle array. Zhuo Chonglu, Wu Yuding, and Zhuo Xiaonian were all there, waiting for Zhuo Duo to come home. After a round of miserable mixed doubles and a trio's accompaniment, the two of them went on for a while. Yes, a combined beating. It was on as scheduled. Although Zhuo Duo knew that he was in the wrong, he still cried out miserably and pretended to be beaten to death to get through it. After the beating, it was time to call it a day. "I beat you up because of the embarrassment you caused today. This is something that must be done. But after the beating, it's over. Next, we'll celebrate for you and praise you." Zhuo Zhonglu was all smiles as he slapped the table. "Someone serve the dishes." "Yes, sir." Wu Yuding and Zhuo Xiaonian answered in unison, fully demonstrating Zhuo Chonglu's superior position as the head of the family. The mother and daughter duo brought out the dishes from the kitchen one by one like ants moving house. There was a dazzling array of dishes that filled the big round table. "After this table, there's another table in the kitchen," Wu Yuding said. "Awesome." Zhuo Duo was about to eat. "Wait." Zhuo Chonglu slapped the table again. "Serve the wine." Wu Yuding rolled her eyes. What? Cough. Zhuo Chonglu immediately stood up. I'll get it myself. Zhuo Chonglu's momentum was gone. He was cool for less than 2 minutes. I'm not accepting the award for you or skipping a grade for you. I'm just proud of your responsibility today, and the bow you gave to your parents in front of everyone. Zhuo Chonglu sighed. Son, you've grown up. What I'm most proud of today is that my son has grown into a man who can stand up to the sky and face the wind and rain head-on. This is the most worthy thing for our family to celebrate. Come, son, pour the wine and have a toast with me. Wu Yuding smiled as she poured wine and served food to the father and son. Her face was full of happiness and pride. She even asked Zhuo Xiaonian, "Is my son handsome today?" Handsome. Zhuo Xiaonian giggled, her eyes sparkling. Thinking of Zhuo Xiaoduo's silent and desperate actions for her, the countdown in the diary, and the messy little words at the end, Zhuo Xiaonian couldn't help but feel moved. Humph, dog. That's great. Dear friends, I'm going to have a heat stroke. I'm sweating all over. So please subscribe to the recommendation tickets. In the afternoon, the leader will update. Chapter 117. In the evenings, Zhuo Xiaoduo followed Zhuo Xiaonian to practice as usual, but this time they went to a place a little further away. I'll be on duty in Wangjiao town today. I'll practice hidden weapons with you in the middle of the night. Okay. Zhuo Xiaoduo couldn't help but get excited when he heard this. This was a mission that only advanced warriors could perform. He was getting to know it in advance. Well, you're on duty here? Zhuo Xiaoduo looked at the hillside in the middle of nowhere, confused. There was no one in this place. What was there to be on duty? There's someone in the nearby town. I suspect he's from the UMNO Alliance. Zhuo Xiaonian looked at the lights in the distance and said, Tonight, my master will go and test him again to see if he can confirm it. And this is the only way for them to fight. If there's really a problem, my master will lead that person here to fight. Do you understand now? The reason why I said this is the place to be on duty is because there's no one here. The fight between warriors is too harmful to ordinary people. Zhuo Xiaonian said, There's an unwritten rule in the current warrior world. Whether it's the UMNO Alliance or the Astral Souls, we should try our best to avoid ordinary people when fighting. This is a kind of bottom line. Last time, when Teacher Qin and Headmaster Li were attacked in the downtown area, it was already considered a bottom line incident. That's why it became so serious. Zhuo Xiaonian said, Xiaoduo, when you go out for missions in the future, it's inevitable that you'll have to fight with people. You must try your best to avoid hurting ordinary people. Because warriors, whether it's on our side or the UMNO Alliance's side, most of their parents and families are still ordinary people. This is the bottom line that we have to protect together. Okay, I'll keep it in mind. Zhuo Xiaoduo nodded. You practice your hidden weapons first. I'll go to the side and watch. Zhuo Xiaonian dodged. Zhuo Xiaoduo continued to cultivate according to the plan. In less than 5 minutes, he was exhausted. He then used the Jade of Astral Souls to quickly recover. Without waiting for Zhuo Xiaonian to come over, he started again. I can't have a masseuse by my side all the time in the future. I have to get used to it and heal myself in the shortest time possible to recover my condition. It was already 2 o'clock in the morning, and the world was silent. Seems that we are free tonight. Zhuo Xiaonian heaved a sigh of relief. He was about to ask Zhuo Xiaoduo to leave. Wait. Zhuo Xiaoduo frowned and looked into the distance. Using the faint starlight, he looked at the village that was completely covered in darkness. He used the aura gazing technique that Yuanyue taught him and looked over. Vaguely, an indescribable aura was rapidly gathering. There was a faint black aura around it. An ominous aura was rising, surging, and brewing. Let's wait a little longer. I have a feeling that something is going to happen today. Zhuo Xiaoduo looked in that direction and said solemnly. The indescribable aura was rapidly surging and taking shape. It's starting. Zhuo Xiaonian was stunned. Just as she was about to say something, she heard an explosion in the distance. Then there was the sound of fighting. In the distance, a cloud of dust rose like a mushroom cloud. In the dust, 2 figures, one white and one green, were fighting fiercely like dragons circling each other. In the blink of an eye, they soared into the sky. Following that, the 2 of them quickly rushed towards Zhuo Xiaoduo and Zhuo Xiaoduo. Damn it! Zhou Xiaoyan slowly pulled out her short sword and leaned behind a tree. Her pretty face was solemn and cold. Hide well. Okay. Zhou Xiaoduo had cleverly hidden behind another tree opposite to Zhou Xiaoyan's direction. He kept making a hole in the bark of the target tree and stuffed himself into it. Then, he made another hole on the left, right, and back to ensure that he could see the movements in all directions and react in time. After Zhou Xiaoduo finished the arrangement, he still felt that it wasn't appropriate enough. He got some mud from the ground and cleaned up the small hole. He then used the bark that he had shaved off earlier to cover his face and body. Only then did he stop moving and hold his breath. He became one with the big tree as if he didn't exist. What I'm about to see is a real battle between masters. There won't be many opportunities to watch this kind of battle. I have to be careful. In order to be safe, he held a few small gourds tightly in his palm. But after thinking about it, he still felt that it was not safe. He put the small gourds in his left hand and held the dragon blood flying dagger in his right hand. Don't think that I'm as timid as a mouse trembling with fear. Perhaps the outcome of this battle will depend on me. But at this moment I have to cheer for Master Mu spiritually. The battle in the sky was like thunder and lightning. It moved horizontally all the way, and in a moment it had come close. Mu Yinyan's clothes were as white as snow. Her long sword was unstoppable, like a flash of lightning across the sky. With an overwhelming advantage, she drove the opponent all the way away from the densely populated area of the village and rushed to the remote forest. The light of the long sword was dense and intertwined into a dense net in the air. The opponent was a middle-aged man in gray. He tried his best to resist and retreated quickly. At the same time he shouted, "Master Mu, I'm really not a member of the Umno Alliance. Why did you suddenly attack me?" Mu Yinyan's pretty face was as cold as snow. "Chen Yuding, if I wasn't sure, do you think I would attack you?" "Evidence. What evidence do you have?" Mu Yinyan sneered. "I've been observing you for 9 days. I just want to ask you one thing. Where did the wound on your left shoulder come from?" "It's the wound you got when you were trying to kill Qin Fengyang that afternoon, right? And the man who came to you this afternoon has been captured by me." Mu Yinyan's momentum was like a rainbow. "Chen Yuding, surrender yourself honestly and you still have a chance to live. Otherwise no one can save you," Chen Yuding said. "This is a misunderstanding. It's really a misunderstanding." Mu Yinyan stopped talking, but the movement of the long sword was getting closer and closer. Gradually it formed a complete light curtain. Chen Yuding, who was inside it, was more and more unable to resist. His cultivation was lower than Mu Yinyan's. Under the opponent's tyrannical attack, it was almost difficult for him to breathe. With a loud bang, Chen Yuding staggered and fell out in the air. In an instant he had gone to the top of the hill. Chen Yuding's mouth overflowed with blood. Under the light of the sword, he looked as miserable as a ghost. "Mu Yinyan, why do you have to push me so far?" Chen Yuding shouted to the sky. "If I, Chen Yuding, fight with my life, even you, Mu Yinyan, may not be able to escape unscathed. Why not leave a way out? We'll meet again in the future." "I never thought that I could escape unscathed. You won't have a future. You can't escape today." Mu Yinyan's pretty face was cold. The spy of the Umno Alliance has actually reached the level of nascent soul. "Chen Yuding, you really hid well." Chen Yuding looked up to the sky and roared. A white light suddenly lit up. It was a sword light, which rushed out with the speed of thunder and lightning. Mu Yinyan stood in the air. Her slim figure stood upright in the air. She clenched the hilt of the sword with both hands and chopped at the sword light without dodging. It was a head-on collision. It was an extreme confrontation without any tricks. With another bang, Chen Yuding fell down like a kite with a broken string. All the trees around him bent down neatly in all directions. Countless small trees even rolled up directly from the ground and flew out in disorder. Mu Yinyan's delicate body shook in the air and retreated 3 feet. Then she jumped down again and chased after him. At this time a sharp whistling sound broke through the air. 2 lights, one on the left and one on the right, suddenly appeared from the sky and attacked Mu Yinyan together. Mu Yinyan let out a clear cry. Her delicate body spun rapidly in the air, and the fan-like sword light sprinkled out. With 2 clangs, the 3 people floated away in 3 directions. "I've been waiting for you." The long sword in Mu Yinyan's hand shook slightly and her feet suddenly moved. Looking from Zhuoxiaoduo's position, he saw that when Mu Yanyan took a step, starlight suddenly flashed. It seemed that all the starlight in the sky had gathered under Mu Yanyan's feet. She was like walking in the starry sky, shining brilliantly. Mu Yanyan's whole body moved with the starlight. Like the starlight flashing, she moved at a high speed. With one person and one sword, she killed the two enemies in a hurry and they fell to the ground. It turns out that this is the correct way to use the starry sky steps. It's so exquisite. Zhuoxiaoduo was beaming with joy as he watched. At this time another sword light rose from the ground and rushed to the sky. It was Chun Yuding, who had been seriously injured, struggling to use his sword. He was very clear that if his two companions couldn't kill Mu Yanyan with his current injury, even if he took the opportunity to escape, he couldn't escape far. Sooner or later, he would fall into Mu Yanyan's hands. Instead of this, it was better to fight with all his strength when the reinforcements came. Therefore, the four nascent soul masters fought fiercely in the air. The strong wind brought by the sword chi, the palm wind, and the fist force blew the trees on the left side of the hillside and made them bend down. Mu Yanyan's sword light flashed with unprecedented power. The whole sky had no other color. It was all reflected by the sword light in her hand and the starlight under her feet. Her slim body waved her sword in the night sky, but it seemed to light up the whole night sky. With only one person and one sword, she suppressed the three masters of the enemy and gained the overall advantage. At this time the other two enemies couldn't help but complain in their hearts. This Chun Yuding, he really tricked them. In the past they reported that Mu Yanyan was only at the high stage of nascent soul. Although she was tyrannical, they could defeat her with the help of three nascent soul masters. But now it seemed that her strength was limited to this. They were going to be fucking tricked by Chun Yuding. In terms of the combat power shown by Mu Yanyan, she was at least at the peak of nascent soul. And it was not the ordinary peak, but the kind that had crossed half a step into the peak of nascent soul. How could they fight? Such a gap had already appeared, the suppression of the realm. In the current situation, not only could the three of them not kill Mu Yanyan and save Chun Yuding, but even the two of them would be trapped. It's really bad luck. Chapter 118. The three of them roared again and again, trying their best to attack. However, their eyes flickered. They were just attacking instead of defending, hoping to temporarily break through Mu Yanyan's dense sword light and escape. If there was a gap, the three of them could scatter and escape. The first and the second one might not be able to escape Mu Yanyan's pursuit, but there was still some hope for the third one. As for who the third one would be, it could only depend on luck. It was the textbook interpretation that was most suitable for this moment. When one side's morale was destroyed, the other side's power naturally increased. Mu Yanyan became braver as she fought. Her white shadow flashed and the starlight shone. The sword light was like a dragon soaring in the sky. Endless light rain fell, forcing the three opponents to become more and more flustered. It turns out that Master Mu is so strong. Zhuoxiaoduo sucked in a breath of cold air. Looks like it's not as easy as just waving her hand for me to bungee jump. I can't say anything bad about her in the future. She might really hear it. Zhuoxiaoyan stood quietly under the tree with a dagger in his hand, ready to strike. At this moment, her whole body's aura had been hidden, and her star-like eyes were closely watching the battle in the sky. Now that Mu Yanyan had the upper hand, she naturally didn't need to fight. She had to be so vigilant in case of accidents. Mu Yanyan's sword was faster than the previous one, and gradually turned the advantage into victory. She only needed to wait for the victory to expand again, and completely overwhelm the opponents, and then it would become a complete victory. The so-called overwhelming victory referred to that Mu Yanyan didn't need to pay any price to win, and kill all three of the opponents in one fell swoop. What Mu Yanyan had to do now was to try her best to squeeze the opponent's strength while trying to avoid being hurt. As far as the current situation was concerned, she had absolute confidence. None of the three of them would be able to escape. The three people in the air had been in a flurry and panicked. No matter how hard they struggled, it was useless. The most terrible thing was that they were shocked to find that with Mu Yanyan's sword net layer by layer, they were even losing the chance to self-explode. At the moment when they realized this, the three of them let out a long roar. Mu Yanyan's face turned cold, and suddenly increased her strength by 30%. You have helpers? Soul-stealing sword. The sword light, which was already extremely brilliant, once again soared. Amidst the sword rain that filled the sky, 3 sword lights shot out with unparalleled momentum. The 3 of them had no room to dodge at all. They were struck in the chest at the same time. They screamed and retreated, blood spurting out. Mu Yanyan's pretty face remained unchanged, and the sword light filled the sky again. She wanted to use the least amount of effort to take down the 3 of them, but the 3 of them had given her a warning. It was obvious that there were other UMNO Alliance members hiding nearby. In order to avoid any more changes, she had to end the battle quickly. Amidst the rain of swords, another 3 beams of sword light shot out. One of the 3 was hit in the forehead and immediately fell down with a scream. The other was hit in the chest and was also seriously injured. Chun Yuding was not much better. He was hit in the abdomen and his dantian was penetrated. His whole body fell down like a kite with a broken string. At the same time, he violently vomited blood, which splattered across the sky. At this moment, a black shadow silently appeared in the air. The black shadow was shrouded in a black cloak, like a huge bat spreading its wings. With a flick of its long sleeves, it confronted Mu Yanyan's sword light head-on. With a loud bang, the 2 of them retreated at the same time. Immediately afterward, endless black haze suddenly filled the air, and instantly covered the whole world. A long cry sounded, "Go!" The black shadow shook its cloak, rushed up and strongly entangled Mu Yanyan. The cultivation displayed by this black shadow was not inferior to Mu Yanyan's at all. The 3 of them who fell to the dust staggered. They were all seriously injured after being hit by 2 swords. They lost at least 70% of their lives, but they finally got rid of Mu Yanyan's death pursuit for the time being. They struggled to stand up, completely ignoring the blood flowing from their bodies, and staggered down the hillside. However, the 3 of them had just taken a few steps when they suddenly felt an overwhelming cold air. On the ground of the hillside, a layer of white frost appeared out of thin air. It should be known that it was summer now. This kind of change was no different from frost in June. How could the 3 of them not know that there was another enemy attack? They trembled at the same time, and then they saw a sword light coming from behind a tree, like a flash of lightning. In a blink of an eye, the sword light was divided into 3, and attacked the 3 of them at the same time. The person's sword light was fierce, but it gave people the feeling that it was more like a fairy in heaven suddenly descending. Every move was ethereal and extraordinary. Spiritual thought goddess. The 3 of them exclaimed at the same time. According to the information collected by the UMNO Alliance, this spiritual thought goddess was Mu Yanyan's disciple. She was so talented that she could be called a peerless genius. As long as she made a move, any move, as long as it was used by her, it would add a bit of ethereal fairy aura out of thin air, which was a wonder. However, there was a legend in the cultivation world that anyone with such temperament was very likely to be a powerful person, or the reincarnation of an ancient fairy. Therefore, this spiritual thought goddess had always been one of the important targets that the UMNO Alliance wanted to target. Her priority was even higher than Mu Yanyan. It was just that they had never confirmed her true identity. And this legendary figure, when the 3 of them were at the end of the road, they actually met her. Seeing that they were about to die again, the 3 of them moved at the same time. They rolled together, but they moved separately. They also mobilized all the remaining pneuma in their bodies. This was the last pneuma used to save their lives. Once this pneuma was leaked, their lives would most likely be in danger. But if they didn't use it now, they would probably be beheaded by the spiritual thought goddess. The 3 of them naturally knew which was more important. Bang bang bang. The 3 sword lights fiercely collided with the 3 people's weapons, making a harsh roar. In the surrounding tens of feet, the grass neatly fell in all directions. After a few muffled groans, the 3 of them spat out a mouthful of blood at the same time. They were shocked. This spiritual thought goddess was actually so terrifying. According to the legend, the spiritual thought goddess had not broken through to the elixir realm. The 3 of them were in the nascent soul realm. Although they were seriously injured and dying, they were definitely not comparable to an ordinary elixir realm cultivator. And this spiritual thought goddess could actually fight against the 3 of them and make them spit out blood at the same time. This kind of cultivation was simply incredible. Let's fight for our lives. Chun Yuding roared loudly, looking very tragic. Determination flashed in the eyes of the other 2 at the same time. attacking at the same time without any regard for their own safety. Once the three of them fought for their lives at the same time, Swixiaonian couldn't help but feel the pressure on her side increase dramatically. Although she was a rare genius who had reached an extremely high realm at a young age and could be said to be one of a kind among her peers, she was still only at the pinnacle of the embryonic breathing realm, half a step to the primordial elixir realm. She was a full 2 realms away from the nascent soul realm. Although her opponents were seriously injured and dying, with less than 100% of their strength left, the three of them joined forces and fought back fiercely. It was still beyond the limit of what Swixiaonian could handle. While Swixiaonian tried her best to resist, she started to move around. Although it was impossible to fight head-on, the three of them were already spent. Until the last moment when the three of them were exhausted, the situation of the battle would change again, and there would be no turning back. It was unknown when a long ribbon appeared in Swixiaonian's hand. She used it to increase the distance between the three of them. Using softness to change the strength, she eliminated the momentum. She walked, stuck, and unloaded the moves that changed the strength of the three of them to dissipate the strength that they had left. The three of them were injured in many places, and it was difficult for them to walk. One of them had even injured his dantian qi. Blood was flowing out like a stream. Almost every moment, a large amount of blood was flowing out. It was obvious that they wouldn't be able to last long. Swixiaonian didn't relax at all from the beginning to the end. She attacked with killing moves and didn't give them any chance to breathe, let alone the time to bandage their wounds. The three of them gradually exhausted their last bit of vital qi. They kept using bad moves and were getting more and more embarrassed. It seemed that they were completely out of energy and were about to run out of energy. In the air, the man in black saw this from afar. He couldn't help but be angry. He shouted strangely, "Little bitch, you've ruined my plans. Die!" With a shake of his hand, 3 streaks of black light flew out rapidly. Swixiaonian's eyes and ears were alert. When she saw the black light shooting towards her, she hurriedly dodged. Originally, there was quite a distance between them, and even though the black-clothed man's strength was far superior to Swixiaonian's, and the black light was fast, Swixiaonian still had plenty of room to dodge. But just as Swixiaonian dodged to the side, thinking that the black light would attack again, he saw the black light turn around and shoot at him again like a shadow following him. This time the distance was close, and with the sudden change Swixiaonian had no time to dodge, and was forced to use his dagger to block. Immediately, the dagger buzzed and his face turned pale. The opponent's cultivation was too high. With just one attack, Swixiaonian was already having a hard time dealing with it. However, after the black light and the short sword collided, the black light was deflected. It circled in the air again and collided with each other in the air. Unexpectedly, it turned around and flew back again. Swixiaonian's expression was unprecedentedly serious. What kind of hidden weapon was this? How could it be so powerful? The three people couldn't hold on any longer. They all collapsed on the ground and panted. They hurriedly treated their wounds. This time they were really exhausted. High in the sky, the clouds were surging. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. The wind was so strong that it was almost impossible to stand up. Chun Yuding leaned against a tree. He looked exhausted. He hurriedly took out a strip of cloth to bandage his wounds. It affected his internal organs. He spat out another mouthful of blood. He only felt that his internal organs were burning. He almost fainted on the spot. But at this moment, how could he faint? He struggled to unwrap the cloth. At the same time, he trembled and opened the pill bottle. When he was about to take the pill, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his back. A cold weapon had been stabbed into his back. Chun Yuding only felt that the little bit of strength left in his body was sucked away by a black hole. He immediately let out a scream. The other 2 people were not far away from him. At this moment, they were struggling to treat their wounds. They saw Chun Yuding, who was leaning against the tree, suddenly scream and his body suddenly straightened up. His eyes rolled back, and he fell to the ground without making a sound. He was dead. Both of them were experienced cultivators. How could they not understand the difference between a living person and a dead person? He was alive just a moment ago. How could he suddenly die? Seeing this, both of them were shocked. Could it be that his injuries were too serious and he suddenly broke out? Chapter 119. If not, could it be that the enemy had other people lying in ambush? But there were no other enemies around. One of them struggled to move his body, took a few steps towards this side, and looked behind him cautiously. The spiritual perception goddess was being restrained by the boss's black light. Now 3 black lights had fallen and were circling around. It was impossible for her to rush over in a short time. After confirming the situation, the man looked down at Chun Yuding with relief. However, at this time, a red light suddenly rushed out of the tree in front of him and stabbed into the man's forehead. It was a pity that although the red light penetrated the bone, the injury was not fatal. It was probably because the strength of the person who made the move was not strong enough to break through the vitality protection of the nascent soul cultivator, even if he was already at the end of his rope. However, the eyes of the person who was hit suddenly bulged, showing an extremely shocked look at, because he clearly felt it. As the red light pierced into his forehead, the injury was not high, and it was just breaking the skin and entering the flesh, but his remaining strength was actually absorbed by the red light in an instant. He stared and only had time to say one word. South. Then, he collapsed with a loud bang and breathed his last. Seeing this scene, the third person was almost scared out of his wits, and he was horrified to death. 2 of his companions died silently, and there must be an ambush nearby. He was about to stand up and run away, but unfortunately, the Zhuoxiaonian on the other side shouted, and 3 black lights flew out in 3 directions. The Zhuoxiaonian flew over with her sword, and the short sword flew out of her hand, nailing the last person to the ground. Mu Yanyan was trying her best to contain the gray-robed man in the sky, and she had no time to care about the battle below. She glanced at the scene of the Zhuoxiaonian killing a person with her flying sword, and she was very satisfied. Ha 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 ha. The gray-robed man laughed. You are indeed the spiritual perception goddess. You are only a half-step primordial core cultivator, but you can break my 3-star chain attack. You are really amazing. Then he blasted out 3 more palms in a row, and said lightly, Mu Yanyan, do you still want to fight? Mu Yanyan stepped back in the air. Her white sleeves flicked to dissolve the 3 consecutive palms. She also said lightly, if you want to continue, I will be happy to accompany you. But, can the Umno Alliance afford such a loss? The gray-robed man laughed. Is your Kunlun Dao sect able to afford such a loss? Amidst his loud laughter, the black cloak behind him fluttered once again. His entire body soared into the sky like a large bat and sped away. Mu Yanyan shouted from behind, although I know you won't say it, I still have to ask. Do you dare to leave your name? The gray-robed man only left behind a string of long laughter, and instantly disappeared without a trace. Mu Yanyan floated down and confirmed the surroundings. She couldn't help but gasp. No wonder that person left. It turned out that the 3 of them were already dead. With no one alive, the hidden danger was gone. There was indeed no need to continue fighting. It seems that this person's cultivation is above mine. Mu Yanyan's heart shook. She was only able to confirm that one of them had died and thought that the other 2 had escaped. It turned out that all 3 of them had died here. How did these 2 people die? Mu Yanyan looked at the 2 people under the tree and was very surprised. One was stabbed in the back and the other in the forehead. Neither of them were fatal wounds. I was hiding in the tree hole. Zhuoxiaoduo trembled as he walked out. Then they leaned against the tree trunk. I directly attacked from the tree. I didn't expect them to die. Mu Yanyan heard this and felt that she understood. Previously, these 3 people had already been severely injured by her, and were not far from death. In addition, Zhuoxiaonian's strong surprise attack had consumed the remaining primordial chi of the 3 people, and their injuries were even more serious. At this moment they were stabbed by Zhuoxiaoduo. Even if their injuries were not fatal, they were still very serious. It was not surprising that these 2 people's injuries were even more serious. It was not surprising that they died. On the contrary, the person who was killed by Zhuoxiaonian should be the one with the lighter injuries among the 3, which was why he needed Zhuoxiaonian to kill him. Xiaoduo did a good job. Mu Yanyan praised. In the face of strong people who are far stronger than you still dare to attack. This courage is already better than others. Really good. Zhuoxiaoduo said obediently. It's all thanks to Miss Mu's good teaching. Mu Yanyan's face darkened. I didn't teach you how to kick the crotch. Zhuoxiaoduo said dryly, Miss Mu. Actually, there were too many people on that day and I was outnumbered. Under the premise that I was not strong enough, I could only use the most effective way to attack other places. It was difficult to have an immediate effect, and I was not strong enough. Mu Yinyan's heart suddenly softened. She touched Swishaoduo's head and said, "Don't do that in the future. It's too embarrassing." "I definitely won't do it in the future," Swishaoduo said seriously. "If they were to fight me one-on-one, I would be able to play them to death just by using the starry sky steps. Why would I need to use such an underhanded method? I also know it's embarrassing, but I had to do it." Mu Yinyan felt gratified when she heard that. She sighed that this kid was still a good kid who knew what was right and what was not. "You can go back," Mu Yinyan said. "I have to go back and hand in the task. Nian find me tomorrow to get your reward." Zhuxiaonian's face was still a little pale. She said, "Yes, master." Mu Yinyan waved her hand, and a bottle of elixirs fell into Zhuxiaonian's hand. She said, "The black-clothed man's 3 stars chain attack was special and powerful. You should be proud that you could escape unscathed. Take care of yourself later." She picked up the 3 corpses and flew away. Zhuxiaonian took a breath. When she was about to pull Swishaoduo back, she saw that Swishaoduo's face was strange. "What's wrong?" "No, nothing. Let's go." After Mu Yinyan left with the corpses, she found that the weight of the 3 corpses was not right. Why were they so light? And the kid just now seemed to be hiding something. Next time I see him, I must not be fooled by his cleverness. I will beat him up first. This little bastard was obviously hiding something in his words. He said that he was outnumbered, so he could only use this most effective way to attack. This sentence sounded fine, but when she thought about it carefully, it was still nonsense. Didn't he mean that in the future, when he encountered a situation that he could not deal with, he would still use this most effective way to attack? Thinking of this, Mu Yinyan was furious. She was fooled by this little bastard on the spot. She sent the corpses all the way to S.H.I.E.L.D. Zhang Zhongbin came out to see the corpses, and several masters of S.H.I.E.L.D. also gathered together. "This is not right. Ms. Mu." They frowned together. "What's wrong? You have killed these 2 for several days, right?" Zhang Zhongbin pointed to Chan Yuding's corpses. "Their bones are a little soft. I just killed them." Mu Yinyan's heart skipped a beat. When she looked down, she saw that the 2 corpses were indeed loose. Their muscles had lost their elasticity, and even their bones were a little loose. Some joints even began to rot and break. What's going on? Mu Yinyan was puzzled. This is not right. They don't look like they were just killed. One of the masters of S.H.I.E.L.D. pointed to the fingers of Chan Yuding, and another master of No Alliance. This is clearly... Cough cough. Zhang Zhongbin glanced at him and laughed heartily. "Ms. Mu, you have worked hard to eradicate 3 enemy spies in one fell swoop. Thank you for your hard work. Take out the reward," Zhang Zhongbin ordered. Mu Yinyan was still full of doubts until she left. She couldn't figure it out. They had just died. How could they become like that? It was as if they had been sucked dry by some insidious method. But how could this be? She had been fighting with them just now and had seriously injured 3 of them. Then she was killed by Xiao Duo with 1 strike. Little Duo, that child, was the most honest and honest. Furthermore, he had never cultivated any sinister techniques before. That I can absolutely guarantee this. If that was the case, then this matter was truly strange. Her mind was full of this matter, and she didn't notice what the other master of S.H.I.E.L.D. said at all. "Stupid." After Mu Yinyan left, Zhang Zhongbin said angrily, "Don't you know the rules? In the cultivation world, the spoils belong to whoever has them. Not to mention the fact that Teacher Mu had left us a ring. Are you still not satisfied? Do we have to give it all to you? Greedy." The master of S.H.I.E.L.D. looked embarrassed. "I'm afraid that there is information in it. Now we lack the information in our hands." "Information? What's the use of Ms. Mu keeping that stuff? She won't want it even if you give it to her for free. Won't she give it to us?" Zhang Zhongbin was exasperated. "You people are too short-sighted. Your eyes only see the storage ring. Can't you see anything else? Don't you think about it? Our duty is to protect the millions of people in Phoenix City. It's not to get rich. Fortunately, I stopped you just now. Otherwise, if this matter really spread out, who would be willing to work for us? Oh, they fought so hard to annihilate the Wizard Alliance's deployment, and they still have to hand over all the spoils of war to your star shield? Only tens of thousands of yuan as a reward? Do you think others are fools? Jiang Zhongbin sighed. Be more flexible in the future. Understood. Thank you for your guidance. You killed 3 nascent soul masters at once. This is a big contribution. Jiang Zhongbin instructed. Hurry up and call your superiors and report your achievements. Are you all stupid? With the help of Ms. Mu of the Kunlun Taoist sect, Shield successfully killed 3 nascent soul masters of the Umno Alliance. One of them is Chan Yuding, a spy from the 7 Kills sect. The other 2 are being investigated to confirm their identities. Director General, this is not our. Are you an idiot? Jiang Zhongbin was surprised and looked at the man as if he was an idiot. Now I finally know why you're still a small secretary even though you're over 80. You can fucking marry an old virgin because you don't fucking know how to. Everyone shut. This fatty Jiang was really ruthless when it came to scolding people. Jiang said that she had recovered. She was happy, so she asked for monthly votes and subscriptions. Add to the chaos, old brother quickly come to the group. Chapter 120. Zhou Xiaonian and her brother quietly returned home. Don't worry, follow me. Zhou Xiaonian was about to go back to her room to rest, but Zhou Xiaoduo took her hand and pulled her sneakily into his room. Zhou Xiaonian struggled for a while, and then followed Zhou Xiaoduo into the room. In the master bedroom, Doggy pulled the cat in again. Sai, don't worry about it. With little Duo's current cultivation. What do you mean? What if Nianer doesn't resist? It's not that I'm looking down on Doggy, but even if he has 10,000 guts, he won't dare. I know he won't dare, but what if Nianer takes the initiative? No way. That's hard to say. Can't you see Nianer's feelings for Xiaoduo? I can see it, but Nianer won't be so reckless, right? Well, Nianer knows what's important. Maybe I'm thinking too much. What's the matter? Zhou Xiaonian was a little surprised by Xiaoduo's sneakiness. Her internal organs were severely shaken when she fought against the dark light hidden weapon. Although she didn't suffer any internal injuries, she still needed to recuperate. Heal yourself first. I'll tell you after you're healed. Don't worry, it's a good thing. Zhou Xiaoduo winked, looking pleased with himself. 15 minutes later, Zhou Xiaonian let out a long sigh. After 3 elixirs, 4 jade of astral souls turned into powder. Her face regained its color, and her breath returned to normal. Okay, tell me. Look, what's this? Zhou Xiaoduo sneakily took it out from his pocket. Storage ring? 2? Zhou Xiaonian exclaimed. Quiet down, you silly sister. Zhou Xiaoduo chuckled. These are from the hands of the 2 people I killed. I saw that they were dead, so I took them. These are real trophies. This was really convenient. Zhou Xiaoduo didn't even come out of the tree hole. Instead, he reached out his hand from the small hole he had dug and rubbed each of them. 2 rings were successfully obtained. After that, Mu Yinyan flew down from the sky, and Zhou Xiaoduo came out of the tree hole. Mu Yinyan didn't suspect anything. Zhou Xiaoduo didn't have the time to commit the crime. After all, not everyone would wear a high-grade item like a storage ring. Please open it and take a look. Zhou Xiaoduo couldn't wait to urge, this is our private property. Halfway through, he received a supercilious look and hurriedly corrected himself. Alright, I'll try. The original owner is already dead, so the remnant psyche shouldn't be that strong. Zhou Xiaonian held it in his hand and circulated his psyche to send it out. After trying for almost an hour, he finally managed to open one of them. With a crash, a pile of messy things fell on Zhou Xiaoduo's bed. A few bottles of elixirs, a pile of jade of astral souls, hundreds of thousands in cash, and a book. Breath-holding technique. The elixirs are yours, the jade of astral souls is yours, the cash is mine, and this book is both of ours. Zhou Xiaoduo immediately began to divide the loot. Zhou Xiaonian checked the bottles of elixirs one by one and nodded in disappointment. These elixirs are of good quality, but they are all for nourishing the divine soul. You haven't reached the innate realm, so you don't need them at all. I'll keep them for you until you reach the innate realm. As for the jade of astral souls, there are only 200 pieces in total. I'll take these 2 pieces of high-grade ones, and you can have the rest of the middle-grade ones. Zhuoxiaoduo's face was as bright as a flower. He counted the points one by one and couldn't close his mouth. Ha ha ha. A man can't be rich without a windfall. A horse can't be fat without feeding at night. This is really... This money. It's not much. Let me see, 160,000. All right, I'll leave you 10,000. And the remaining 150,000 is mine. Zhuoxiaonian put the $150,000 into his ring and collected the rest of the items. We can practice the breath-holding technique together. It's useful. Zhuoxiaoduo, who was counting the jade of astral souls, was stunned. Both of his hands stopped moving. What did she mean? 160,000. She only gave me 10,000? What happened to dividing the loot? How could she divide it like this? I don't lack the jade of astral souls now, what I lack is money. Zhuoxiaonian continued to open another ring. The loot this time is not bad. There are many pills that you can use. These few bottles can increase cultivation, and these 2 bottles can strengthen the body. I'll take this bottle that can nourish the soul first. These jade of astral souls are quite big. I'll send it to my father's shop tomorrow. It's hard to withdraw money from these 2 people's bank cards. I'll destroy them later. You won't be able to use these 2 rings in a short time. I'll keep them for you. These jade of astral souls are all yours. This guy is so poor. He only has less than 100 pieces of astral souls jade. How dare he call himself a nascent soul cultivator? All right, I'll take all the 450,000 in cash. You don't have much use for the money. Zhuoxiaonian took another 450,000. I have use for it. I have a lot of use for the money. Zhuoxiaoduo's eyes were green with envy. He finally couldn't help but argue. A total of 610,000 dead people's money. You only gave me 10,000. This is my profit. How can you be like this? What use? Zhuoxiaonian snorted. What do you mean I didn't buy it for you? What use do you have for the money? Even the hidden weapons were provided by me. You don't smoke or drink. What use do you have for the money? I have use for it anyway. Huff huff huff. Are you planning to keep the money to flirt with girls? Sure enough, men become bad when they have money. Dad said you're a man now, so... Zhuoxiaonian stretched out her hand and took away the 10,000 from Zhuoxiaoduo's hand. 10,000 is too much. I'll leave you with 1,000. Zhuoxiaoduo was stunned. Zhuoxiaonian waved her hand and put away all the money she took. She turned around and walked to the door. She looked back and said sweetly, "Good night, doggy." Zhuoxiaoduo was left stunned with a thin stack of money in his hand. I only said one sentence. And 10,000 turned into 1,000? This money depreciated too fast. Hey, you're the one who kept everything for me. He remembered Zhuoxiaonian's catchphrase, I'll keep everything for you. Zhuoxiaoduo wanted to cry but had no tears. I'm a man. What's wrong with a man having some money? What's wrong with that? Is it illegal? How did I become bad? How am I bad? Zhuoxiaoduo beat his chest and stamped his feet. He was extremely angry. What's wrong with a man having some money? What's wrong with this world? Zhuoxiaonian left. After a long time, Zhuoxiaoduo looked at the closed door. His eyes were a little gloomy. A moment later, stealthily he took out the throwing knife. The throwing knife given by Uncle Nan. There was no hope for money. Let's take a look at the knife. Even though he was the only one in the room, his movements were still so careful and meticulous. For the past few days, this knife had been hidden in his arms. It was just that he didn't feel anything special when it was separated by a leather sheath. But today, when he took it out, he felt that the throwing knife seemed to contain endless power when he used it slightly. Just after touching it for a moment, there were already traces of power entering his body and benefiting him. Previously, when he held the throwing knife in his hand and directly stabbed Chan Yuding in the back, this feeling was even more obvious. When the throwing knife entered Chan Yuding's body, Zhuoxiaoduo could even clearly feel that Chan Yuding, who was seriously injured, didn't have much power left in his body, but it was still considerable. And this last bit of power was absorbed by the throwing knife at the moment when it was stabbed. And this was the real reason for Chan Yuding's quick death. For a strong man in the nascent soul stage like Chan Yuding, even if he was an arrow at the end of its flight, even if the knife went straight into his heart, It was impossible to kill him instantly. Not to mention that Swordsmanship was only a martial master. His sneak attack could only break the skin and enter the flesh. It really couldn't hit the vital parts. But breaking the skin and entering the flesh was enough for the dragon blood flying knife. Chun Yuding, who was a nascent soul stage cultivator, didn't even have the chance to struggle and died instantly. Swordsmanship killed 2 seriously injured nascent soul stage cultivators with 2 knives. In fact, the dragon blood flying knife ate 2 mouthfuls of flesh, and then turned into a huge force contained in the throwing knife. Of course, the upper limit of the capacity of the throwing knife was unknown. But for Swordsmanship, it was too much and beyond his imagination. Swordsmanship was too familiar with the good habit of, if you don't pick it up when you go out, you'll throw it away. His follow-up actions were so smooth that he could control his power to take off the space ring first. Then Mu Yinyan came down. Swordsmanship naturally put the dragon blood flying knife into the sheath. The whole set was natural and smooth, without the slightest flaw. This kind of divine object couldn't be seen by others. What if they took it away? Yes, Swordsmanship now realized that the throwing knife given by Uncle Nan was not only a treasure, but also a divine weapon. After realizing this, Swordsmanship couldn't help but be overjoyed, but he also became more cautious. Don't show off your wealth. I don't want others to know that I have a dime, let alone such a magical thing. If others know, they will definitely rob me. I've never used my own good things to test other people's bottom line. But I very much welcome others to test me with their good things. That after thinking for a long time, Swordsmanship's mood turned to melancholy. Who would try to test me with something good? There are not many good people like Uncle Nan. Lifting the dragon blood flying knife and looking at it carefully, he saw that the thin bloodline inside seemed to have thickened a little. As long as he held the throwing knife in his hand, he could feel a trace of power pouring into his meridians, and it didn't affect his body at all. At the same time, he could absorb the chi of heaven and earth. Each had its own way and complemented each other. His good stuff. Super good stuff. Swordsmanship held the dragon blood flying knife in his hand and slowly ran the Flaming Sun Sutra. Suddenly, he felt that the spiritual chi in his body was boiling. His whole body was like the sun shining in all directions. The dragon blood flying knife in his hand seemed to respond to a stronger force. The abundant energy was extracted from the flying knife and slowly poured into his body. It's so hot, so manic. This morning my wife asked me to find some fruit for her, so angry. How can a man do this? So I ran to the kitchen and grabbed the kitchen knife. My body shook and I shouted, "If you make me do this again, I will chop you up." Then I chopped up a watermelon. My manliness is off the charts, so please subscribe to the recommendation tickets. Chapter 121. Oh, as this inexplicably powerful energy surged into his meridians, Swordsmanship couldn't help but let out a strange sound. It wasn't his fault. It was simply too comfortable. No one would be able to resist it. His entire body was simply. The only analogy he could think of was, perhaps, the feeling of suddenly entering a warm pool of water when he was extremely tired. Was 100 times better. Swordsmanship's cadence made that person moan for a minute. All the pores on his body opened up. Every cell in his body was dancing, and it was an explosive breakdance. At this moment, his pupils dilated. Swordsmanship muttered to himself, his eyes blurred. Swordsmanship checked again and again, confirming that the energy surging into his meridians was mild and gentle. It could be said that it was the purest spiritual energy, and didn't contain any foreign elements. It wasn't just a matter of comfort. The key was, cultivating in this state would be at least twice as efficient as cultivating normally. Because this was practically an extra, something that fell from the sky. Awesome. Too awesome. Too awesome. Rolling his eyes, Swordsmanship wanted to speed up. Swordsmanship held the dragon blood flying dagger in his left hand, and 2 mid-grade jade of astral souls in his right hand. Using this as a support mode, he circulated the Flaming Sun Sutra. The effect was actually 3 times better than the Flaming Sun Sutra alone. Yes, 1 layer of the dragon blood flying dagger, 1 layer of the jade of astral souls, and the absorption of the Flaming Sun Sutra itself. The extreme comfort he had just experienced came once again. It was too awesome. It would be even better if it was faster. Excited, Zhou Xiaoduo held the dragon blood-flying dagger in his left hand and the mid-grade jade of astral souls in his right hand. With 2 mid-grade jade of astral souls above his head, 2 mid-grade jade of astral souls in his dantian, and 4 mid-grade jade of astral souls below his butt, he began to cultivate. Damn it, why is it still 3 times? Master Zhou was somewhat dissatisfied. I added so many jade of astral souls, the efficiency should have increased. Why isn't it 5 times? 6 times? 10 times? This was simply swindling people's money and going too far. Zhou Xiaoduo angrily climbed onto the bed and lay down. His hands were spread out horizontally, with the flying dagger in his left hand and the jade of astral souls in his right. He slept while circulating the Flaming Sun Sutra. Zhou Xiaoduo learned this from Li Zhongming. Zhua, the improvement in one's sleep is the purest. The foundation of cultivation lies in the circulation of one's qi and blood. The circulation of qi and blood during cultivation is different from the normal circulation of one's blood vessels. Sleeping time is the greatest consumption of a person's body. If one can maximize the use of sleeping time, Zhou Xiaoduo felt that Fatty's words made sense. Therefore, he had to give it a try. Moreover, I'm having fun while sleeping. Not stronger than Li Zhongming? Not long after. Snore, snore. Zhou Xiaoduo really fell asleep. It was a deep sleep. Early morning. Feeling refreshed, Zhou Xiaoduo rushed out of the door excitedly. Today, he was going to report to the legendary martial master class. Not only Zhou Xiaoduo but Long Yuxing and the others were also excited. Moreover, they were all assigned to Class 19 and were familiar with each other. Naturally, they were even more excited. Well, new martial master students who didn't enter the school according to the normal rules were usually placed in the last class. This was the usual practice. After all, it was rare for someone like Zhou Xiaoduo to reach the peak of martial master right after becoming a martial master. On the other hand, it was normal for Long Yuxing and the others to successfully break through and reach the beginner stage of martial master. The 6 of them arrived at the entrance of martial master class 19 valiantly and spiritedly. This time Qin Fengyang didn't come to send them off. Only the 6 of them came together. As far as the eye could see, the classroom door was tightly shut. Recalling what Qin Fengyang said when Zhou Xiaoduo entered the class, Long Yuxing was excited. I'll do it. Hey, wait. Wan Lixiu didn't have time to stop him. She saw Long Yuxing rushing forward excitedly. He raised his foot and let out a strange cry. Boom, the entire door was kicked open. Teacher. Student Long Yuxing reporting for duty. When the dust settled, they saw Qin Fengyang's gloomy face. The 5 people behind him were speechless. Wan Lixiu couldn't bear to look at him. That day, the old principal said in front of all of us that Teacher Qin would be transferred to the martial master class and continue to teach us. We all remembered it, but Long Yuxing actually forgot. When Long Yuxing saw Qin Fengyang, he was immediately dumbfounded. How? Oh no! His mind, which had been muddled by excitement, finally regained its clarity. His whole body trembled as he remembered. Oh my God, I actually forgot about it. Teacher Qin. At this moment, a total of 48 people from the 19th class turned their heads and stared at the audacious brat. He actually dared to be so arrogant. Is this a sign of dissatisfaction with the teacher, or a provocation to us? We were having a good class. Yes, the new Teacher Qin was indeed sharp. With just a few words he was able to solve many of our problems. Everyone was intoxicated by his words and the atmosphere was unprecedentedly good. Who would have thought that the classroom door would be kicked open, greatly destroying this beautiful atmosphere? There was actually such an arrogant freshman. It seemed like he needed to be taught a lesson. Everyone looked over. Weren't these the children of the families at the commendation ceremony? No wonder he had such a personality and was so arrogant. It wasn't without reason. Holy shit, he was a genius. He still hadn't vented the anger he had suffered at home these past few days because of you. For a moment, new and old hatred welled up in everyone's hearts. They clenched their fists, ready to take action. Everyone's eyes were filled with an undisguised desire to beat someone up. Cough, cough. Qin Fengyang coughed. All 48 people turned their heads to look at Qin Fengyang. Qin Fengyang's face was cold as he said, "The door was kicked open by a few freshmen and the 48 of you are just going to endure it? What are you doing?" Why aren't you all attacking together and teaching these bastards a lesson? Beat them to death, as long as you don't really kill them. Ah! Hearing this order, the 48 people were overjoyed. It was as if the heavens had fulfilled their wishes. Teacher Qin was indeed a kind teacher. He understood what they wanted too well. Rumble. The 48 people rushed out like a surging tide and surrounded Zhuoxiaoduo's group of 6. It was like an iron bucket surrounding a mountain, impenetrable. Attack! It was unknown who shouted excitedly, but this person was so excited that his throat was dry. The 48 people attacked at the same time, going all out. However, Zhuoxiaoduo and Li Chenglong were even faster than them. Li Chenglong shouted, "This battle is inevitable. Quickly form the cylindrical formation. Defend instead of attack. Stabilize the line of defense." As for Zhuoxiaoduo, while Li Chenglong was talking, he had already made his move. He floated up with the star steps and the Dragon Gate kick appeared and disappeared unpredictably. Seeing that the opponents were outnumbered, Zhuoxiaoduo naturally used his most proficient, most powerful and most effective attack, Dragon Gate kick. Kick in the crotch. Puff puff puff. Ouch. Ah. The 3 boys had already rolled out like shrimps, holding their crotches and screaming loudly. All the students, especially the boys, felt a lingering fear. Their pupils shrank, and their attacks actually slowed down a little. The effect was immediate and deeply ingrained in everyone's hearts. All the boys who saw it felt a chill in their crotches, and a wave of reflex spasmed in horror. And with this delay, the cylindrical formation had already been formed. Long Yuxing and the other 4 had been oppressed by Zhuoxiaoduo's violence, and they had long been unwilling to give up. Under the leadership of Li Chenglong, they formed a set of offensive and defensive strategies, and this cylindrical formation was a small success. The 5 of them formed a circle, and they only needed to deal with the attacks in front of them, and did not need to worry about attacks from behind. Naturally, their combat power increased dramatically. Of course, such a formation would fall into a passive situation, but in the face of a large number of attackers, its response could be considered to be moderate. Qin Fangyang was so angry that his hair stood up. "Zhuoxiaoduo, you bastard. You little punk. Don't kick in the crotch." "Why not? Why not? It's too unfair." Although Zhuoxiaoduo's brazen attacks were successful, he had no time to retreat to the cylindrical formation. He was facing the joint attack of 4 or 5 martial arts students. There were boys and girls on the opposite side, and their attacks were like a storm. Zhuoxiaoduo blocked in a flurry and shouted, "There are so many people here, and you're not allowed to kick my crotch." As he shouted, he tilted his butt, and his leg suddenly exerted force, and coincidentally clamped someone's leg that was about to kick his crotch. "Teacher Qin, look, they kicked my crotch. I have evidence and I clamped it. It's impolite not to reciprocate. Look, look." Zhuoxiaoduo desperately dealt with the punches and kicks in front of him, but his 2 thighs did not relax. He twisted his butt, desperately blocking the attacks in front of him, and struggled to twist his neck as he shouted at Qin Fangyang, "Look, I clamped it. Look at this, this is solid evidence. You don't let me kick your crotch, so what if they kick my crotch? Teacher Qin, take a look." However, Qin Fangyang did not seem to see it. Coincidentally, he raised his head, and did not lower it for a long time. Zhuoxiaoduo suddenly felt indignant. "It's not fair. It's rigged. This was a blatant shady plot." This referee was obviously invited by the other side. At this moment, his face, head, body and buttocks had been hit more than a dozen times. However, Zhuoxiaoduo, who had been through thousands of beatings, was used to this kind of attack and did not care at all. With a loud bang, he punched the guy who was clamping his thigh in the face, and then with a swing of his butt, the guy was immediately thrown out. "Since you're rigged, then masters will not be polite. Hit." With no more scruples, Zhuoxiaoduo completely let go of his worries. Star Walk, Star Picking Palm, Dragon Gate Kick and Star Picking Palm, Dragon Gate Kick were superb. In just a few moves he had already knocked down 5 people. Then he turned around and punched a young student who was attacking Li Chenglong fiercely. Then, he kicked one of the students who were attacking Wan Lixiu. This time, the moment the kick landed, there was a miserable cry that was not inferior to the crotch. "Ouch, nanane." However, the kick landed on the back. This result made Zhuoxiaoduo's eyes light up immediately. I seem to have discovered a new skill. In the afternoon, someone despised our subscriptions for being too low, and felt bad for the whole afternoon. Sigh, please subscribe. It's too embarrassing. Today, both of them felt even better, and their mood was infinitely low. Half a chapter in the afternoon. Sigh. Chapter 122. At this moment, Swordsmanship was enlightened. He was enlightened. That's right, the human body has more than one vital point. I was too narrow-minded before. Fine, I won't kick your crotch. I can do it elsewhere too. Master Zhuo was enlightened. He was like a dragon returning to the sea and a tiger returning to the mountains. He was like a dragon, twisting and turning like a phoenix dancing in the 9 heavens. In just an instant, 6 boys covered their buttocks and fell out, wailing like ghosts and howling like wolves. 6 people were injured at the back at the same time. The scene was too beautiful to look at. Qin Fengyang was so angry that the muscles on his face were trembling. You're not allowed to hit. Hit here. Qin Fengyang was furious. Because he couldn't say this position. There were many female students. If he, as a form teacher, shouted that word like a thunderbolt, and unfortunately, there was someone playing dumb. Swordsmanship was confused. Where is this? Teacher Qin, please explain. As he spoke, another 2 boys covered their buttocks and cried out as they were kicked out. Bastard! Qin Fengyang was furious. If you do it again, I'll go down. Swordsmanship, try it. Swordsmanship was stunned. I have to take it easy. Seems like I have to change my strategy. If the referee comes down personally, I'll be finished. Hence he began to play by the rules. At this moment, Long Yuxing's side had already been thrown to the ground and was being beaten up like a sandbag by a few boys. Yes, the cylindrical formation that Li Chenglong was in charge of was just a prototype, and strictly speaking, this formation was only meant to guard against Swordsmanship, and it was the same for the other side as well. In other words, it was guarding against Swordsmanship's fast attacks. It defended from all directions and did not need to defend its own back. When facing Swordsmanship, the effect was quite good. However, the weakness of this formation was also very obvious. Firstly, it couldn't move and could only defend passively. Secondly, once they encountered a large number of enemies who were not weaker than them in a one-on-one battle, it was too easy for the enemy to break through. And in the current situation, these 2 flaws were exposed at the same time. In just a moment, the cylinder formation was broken by the students of Class 19. Long Yuxing, the instigator of today's unforeseen event, naturally bore the brunt of it. Swordsmanship saw him and shouted, Mr. Zhuo is here. They rushed forward like a bear. They rushed forward with irresistible force. Everywhere they passed, people were thrown off their feet and horses were thrown off their feet. Pung, 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 pung. He flipped several people over in succession, grabbed Long Yuxing, and threw him behind himself. Triangle. Long Yuxing followed behind Swordsmanship, while Wan Lixiu went to the other corner. Li Zhongming followed behind her, while Yu Moyan went to the other corner with his head lowered. Li Chenglong followed behind him. Although the battle was short, the 6 people were covered in fist and footprints, but the burning light in their eyes never stopped. Li Chenglong spat out a mouthful of saliva. Fuck, so we usually beat us hard, what's the point of it? Wan Lixiu, Li Chenglong, Yu Moyan and Li Zhongming all agreed. Swordsmanship, on the other hand, had a gloomy face. Is this a compliment, insult, or scold me? Damn it. It's obvious that my training has been effective. Why do you guys look like you're complaining now? What's going on? Go. The students of the martial arts master class rushed up again, and their attacks were even stronger. Li Chenglong hid behind Yu Moyan, and while he attacked, he kept shouting orders, don't stop moving, the most important thing in the tripartite formation is to rotate. Move your feet as you fight. Rotate the 3 corners. Yes, yes, fuck ba ba ba. Who threw sand into my mouth? Swordsmanship, who was the strongest in terms of overall strength, took on a corner all by himself. Facing the frenzied wave of attacks, he was like a cornerstone. No matter what kind of attack the other party launched, he would directly repel it back, causing the other party to suffer a crushing defeat. Long Yuxing, who was following behind him, almost didn't have a chance to attack. Long Yuxing's movement temporarily stopped at following Swordsmanship. He knew that Swordsmanship's strong attack was to give him a chance to recover. After all, he was thrown off the ground and was heavily injured. so his combat power was inevitably reduced. Seeing that there was a chance to recover, he hurriedly took out a pill and stuffed it into his mouth. He also took out a jade of astral souls to absorb energy. At this moment he looked at Duo with eyes full of worship and trust. With Zua in front of him, even if he was surrounded he could heal in peace, and he didn't have to worry about being disturbed by attacks. No matter what kind of attack Duo blocked it. This sense of security was not only felt by Long Yusheng, but also by Wan Lixiu, Yu Moyan, Li Changming and Li Chenglong. As Duo continued to rotate and exchange opponents with other enemies, the few of them could feel the pressure on their bodies being greatly reduced. When they saw Duo fight, the silent attacks and fierce attacks made them feel more at ease. This feeling of being protected and having someone to rely on was really good. Although it was just a spar between students, they seemed to have seen the glory of going on missions together in the future, charging into enemy lines together, under the leadership of Duo. Fearless. Even though everyone was constantly being beaten up, Li Zhongming, Wan Lixiu, and the others felt an indescribable joy in their hearts. After a while, Long Yusheng finally recovered more than half of his strength. He stepped forward bravely and took on nearly half of the pressure. After a long roar, he laughed loudly. Zua. Today was worth it. Wan Lixiu, Yu Moyan, and the others laughed at the same time. Zua, today was worth it. Duo was dumbfounded. Fuck, are you guys satisfied with being beaten up? Are you guys having an orgasm? What's worth it? His whole mind was devoted to the battle, and he was constantly helping the others to defend. He was trying his best to solve all the dangers that everyone faced. He really didn't have the mood or spare time to think about other things. Well, the only thing he was thinking about was fuck, we 6 geniuses came to join the class. No matter what, we can't be beaten to death right after we enter the class. No matter what, we have to get through this battle. Even if we die, we have to get through it. As for anything else, he really didn't think of anything else. And all of this was seen by Qin Fengyang, who was standing high above. He was very satisfied that this battle could last until now, at least in Qin Fengyang's opinion. Well, apart from the fuming at the beginning, he was indeed very satisfied. What he was satisfied with was not that Duo and the others could hold on for so long. It even seemed that there was hope for victory. It was that Duo showed the temperament of a leader who shouldered the burden alone. This was what Qin Fengyang was most satisfied with and gratified about. Qin Fengyang knew very well that Duo wasn't thinking about anything at this moment. Otherwise, how could his eyes be so clear and sharp? But because Duo wasn't thinking about anything and didn't have any thoughts, it gave Wan Lixiu and the others an indescribable sense of security. This feeling was so strong that even Qin Fengyang, who was watching the battle, felt it. And today was the first time they felt such a sense of security. And this feeling left a deep imprint in the hearts of the 5 of them. They couldn't forget it for the rest of their lives. And Qin Fengyang was even more gratified because, from today onwards, this small team of 6 finally had a real core. A core that everyone was convinced of. This was the most precious recognition that couldn't be bought with money. Previously, Long Yusheng and the others called Zua because Duo was the oldest and the strongest. This had nothing to do with respect, recognition, and trust. But from today onwards, they had everything. Respect, recognition, trust, and peace of mind. The most important things of a team were all present in this battle where Long Yusheng kicked open the door. Qin Fengyang watched with a smile on his face. His heart was at ease. He raised his head and looked into the distance. He couldn't help but think that if such a team was strong enough to go to the Sun Moon Pass, what kind of sensational result would it cause? The battle continued and became more and more desperate. This battle. Qin Fengyang didn't stop the battle from beginning to end. The students from both sides continued to fight like crazy. And towards the end, the slogans of both sides changed. Let's see who can still stand in the end. The more they fought, the more desperate the battle became. The confrontation between the students actually created the atmosphere of a bloody battlefield. The momentum of a life-and-death battle. Many teachers heard the deafening battle cries and thought that something big had happened. So they heard the news and came over. When they came, they saw the head teacher standing calmly at the side and watching the students fight with their lives. They couldn't help but shake their heads and leave. Damn, Qin Fengyang was indeed someone from a big city. He really knew how to play. On the tall building, He Yuanyue held a pair of binoculars and watched the battle intently. She knew better than anyone what Qin Fengyang was doing. Exciting! Raising wolves. Since Qin Fengyang didn't stop it, he would wait until one side completely fell. He wanted to choose a wolf king from a wolf pack. The king of a wolf pack must be the fiercest, the strongest, and the most respected. And in this battle, the one who could still stand in the end must be the king. The martial masterclass already had the qualifications to face the wind and rain. And this battle was the first time this group of little guys faced the wind and rain level of a battle. Even if it was a battle between classmates, there must be victory and defeat, honor and disgrace. The path of a martial artist starting from the martial master was no longer just a saying. There were students constantly spitting out blood and twitching all over as they fell. And for those who fell, Qin Fengyang would immediately pull them to the side, not allowing them to fight again. Now there were already 27 students gathered around Qin Fengyang. Out of the 48 students in class 19, there were still 21 students besieging Zuo Duo and the other 5. As for the remaining 20 students, many of them had their combat strength greatly reduced and were on the verge of collapse. However, Zuo Duo's situation wasn't much better. Wan Lixiu, Li Zhongming, Long Yuxing, and the others were all weak and pale. They were barely hanging on and could fall to the ground at any time. Li Chenglong! Zuo Duo shouted. Here! Take Wan Lixiu's place. Yes. Li Chenglong didn't hesitate and took Wan Lixiu's place. Wan Lixiu and Long Yuxing stood back to back, panting heavily. Zuo Duo was a little anxious. If this continued, even if he could still stand, the other 5 wouldn't be able to hold on and would definitely be defeated. If that happened, even if he was the only one standing, it would be meaningless. Zuo Duo roared and the temperature around him suddenly rose. It was as if a big sun had risen in front of everyone. Radiance everywhere. Burning sun. Zuo Duo clapped his hands and shouted. Chapter 123. Great Flaming Sun. Zuo Duo roared. An extremely hot wave of air suddenly appeared. The heat wave surged and surged, rolling out. For a moment, the air was distorted by the heat wave. The hair of the few students who were close to them instantly curled up. At this point in the battle, Zuo Duo didn't have much strength left. If he didn't use the Flaming Sun Sutra, he was afraid that he would lose this battle. Although the Flaming Sun Sutra was extremely lethal and not suitable for students to use in a battle, Zuo Duo didn't want to lose. After all, he hadn't used his real trump card yet. He hadn't used the hidden weapon technique that he had been practicing for many days. Speaking of hidden weapons, it wasn't that Zuo Duo didn't want to use it to defeat the enemy, but instead of using hidden weapons, it was better to use the Flaming Sun Sutra. Although Zuo Duo had been practicing his hidden weapons recently, his cultivation was still shallow. Coupled with the hard jade hidden weapon, its lethality was limited. It would only cause effective damage if it hit the vital points. But the people he was facing now were all his classmates. How could he really kill them? Qin Fengyang wouldn't even need anyone else to tear him apart if he really wanted to blind everyone's eyes. It was better to use the Flaming Sun Sutra. Although he couldn't control this technique freely and his mastery was shallow, it was more than enough to deal with the current situation. As the hot wave of air rose, Li Chenglong's spirit suddenly shook. He felt that the power of his astral souls, which had been exhausted, was starting to surge again, that he roared and was about to fight again. I'm going to beat you until you're swollen. Stop. Qin Fengyang finally called for a stop. He originally wanted to wait for the final result. Whether Zuo Duo or the students of Class 19 won this battle, it would have a deeper meaning. If the former won, it would allow Zuo Duo and the others to establish the heart of the strong and benefit immensely. If the latter won, it would encourage them to work harder and understand that there was always someone better than them. But now that Zuo Duo had used the Flaming Sun Sutra, that familiar wave of heat made him feel a sense of danger. If they were to continue fighting, he didn't know how many of the students in Class 19 would be burned, and it wouldn't be good if there were any injuries. After all, this was a confrontation between students. If he were to suddenly raise the level of the battle and even cause casualties, it would be inconsistent with his original intentions. With a command, both sides stopped fighting. 14 of the people from Class 19 fell to the ground the moment the two sides stopped fighting. They were sweating profusely and gasping for breath. Their faces were deathly pale. 3 of them even fainted on the spot. At the same time, Long Yuxing and Yu Moyan's legs gave way, and they were about to sit down. However, Zhou Xiaoduo supported the 2 of them with 1 hand each. Wan Lixio was also exhausted. She collapsed in Long Yuxing's arms. When Long Yuxing fell, she naturally fell as well. Long Yuxing was held by Zhou Xiaoduo, which was equivalent to her being held by him. Zhou Xiaoduo was panting. His face was bruised and swollen. His eyes were dark and there were 7 or 8 big bumps on his head. His clothes were torn to shreds, but he supported Long Yuxing and Wan Lixio with his left hand and Yu Moyan with his right. Li Chenglong and Li Changming supported each other and stood behind him. He said proudly to Qin Fangyang, "Teacher Qin, we have won this battle." The eyes of the 48 people on the other side flashed with humiliation. But no one said anything to refute. Yes, the 48 people had beaten up 6 people. They were all seniors, real martial masters. They had bullied 6 freshmen. In the end, more than half of them had fallen. On the other hand, the 6 people on the other side were still standing. None of them were missing. The result of this battle was self-evident. No one had the face to argue. The 3 leaders looked at each other and sighed in unison. At the same time they said, "I admire you. You are indeed a genius who has been praised. You are indeed better than us." Some people who had been kicked in the crotch were resentful. After all, it was too painful. Their faces were ugly. They looked at Zhou Xiaoduo with eyes full of inexplicable anger. Qin Fangyang walked over slowly with a smile on his face and said, "Sit down. Everyone sit down and rest. You just need to listen to me." Zhou Xiaoduo loosened his grip and Long Yuxing and Wan Lixio fell to the ground with a pop sound. Mo Yen turned into a pile of mud without making a sound. Everyone sat down on the ground. Among the 6 people on Zhou Xiaoduo's side, other than Zhou Xiaoduo, Li Chenglong's condition was actually the best. It was probably because of the Sun Flame Jin Qi that Zhou Xiaoduo just used, which had an immediate effect on this guy's recovery. There were 6 people on one side and 48 on the other. Although there was a clear distinction between them, they were all bruised and swollen. Regardless of gender, they were all like this. Qin Fangyang stood in the middle with an amiable expression. "This is my first day in charge of the 19th Martial Master class. The 48 seniors and the 6 freshmen make up all the students in the 19th class." Qin Fangyang said with a gratified tone, "As the head teacher of this class, I am sincerely gratified by this confrontation." 54 people tacitly agreed not to make a sound, and listened quietly. "Perhaps the strength of our class isn't outstanding in the entire grade. We might even be ranked last. However, children, you are the first class that I have acknowledged on the first day after teaching for so many years. Furthermore, you are a class that I can be proud of on the first day." Hearing this, everyone's spirits were lifted. Which child who could reach the martial master level at Zhao's age wasn't a person with extraordinary talent? There were many flattering words that they heard on a daily basis. It was normal for them to hear 10 times or even 100 times more flattering words. However, when everyone heard Qin Fangyang's words, they couldn't help but puff out their chests and perk up their ears. The recognition of the head teacher was always the thing that the children cared about the most. Do you know why? Qin Fangyang's voice was filled with gratification as he said, "There are 48 seniors. There are people who are constantly injured, people who are constantly falling, and people who are constantly withdrawing from the battle. What makes me most gratified is that the students who have fallen will be properly taken care of. They will be allowed to withdraw, recuperate, and then participate in the battle again. This is the first time. This is a comrade. This is cooperation. The second is, even when facing a strong enemy who is far more powerful than you, from the beginning to the end, not a single one of you was timid. Not a single one of you withdrew. The reason why you retreated was because your physical strength was exhausted, or because you were beaten and had no choice but to withdraw. This is a kind of courage. This is the courage of a martial artist. All of you have it. Regarding this, I am sincerely gratified." As for the third, everyone present, whether it is the seniors of the 19th class or Zhou Xiaoduo and the rest of the 6, none of them used a fatal move. This means that no matter how tragic the scene looks, There is always a string in everyone's heart that is stretched taut. That is, the opponent is one of us, one of our classmates. You can't be too heavy-handed. This is where the bottom line is. This is also the most important bottom line as a person. All of you didn't use any means to win. Qin Fengyang sighed softly. This bottom line is easy to say, but it is extremely difficult to do. Children, you may not be the most outstanding students I've ever taught, but you're definitely the students I'm most proud of and gratified to have taught. Good job. This battle was very good. You have courage. You have unity. You have cooperation. You have a bottom line. Children, you are very good. Qin Fengyang clapped his hands lightly. His eyes were filled with praise, encouragement, and true gratification. Don't be afraid if you can't beat them. You can work hard in the future and fight when you can. But if your character is bad, then it will be bad forever. Next is the summary of the battle. Zuoxiao Duo. Yes, let me emphasize on you. Your habit of using your crotch is not bad. Although I have stopped you and asked you to use it as little as possible in normal sparring, but in the future, when you fight on the battlefield, this habit must still be maintained and carried forward. Qin Fengyang's expression was indifferent. You may not understand why I would praise such a vulgar and even shameless method. The problem is that all of you who still have the strength to move forward may go to the battlefield in the future. And the battlefield is a place where nothing is unscrupulous. There is no benevolence, righteousness, morality, or the rules of Jianghu to speak of. As long as you can knock down the opponent, it is a good move. On the other hand, as long as you are knocked down by the opponent, then in this life that will be the last time. Once you are knocked down, your life is over. All of you must remember this well. All of our learning and sparring now is for the sake of future actual combat. The few students who were kicked do not have to be resentful or complain. It was just a sparring session because you were kicked because you were not strong enough and your defense was not enough. You only cared about your hands and feet to hit others? You did not even notice that your door was open? What kind of logic is this? In the world of martial artists, there is only victory and defeat, life and death. Qin Fengyang emphasized, when you are beaten to death by others and others are cheering for victory, no one will care about the resentment of a dead person. I suggest that everyone copy this sentence and read it every day. Today's Wuxiao Duo is your classmate. He kicked you and you are powerless to resist. He will not continue to kill you. But what about tomorrow? You have met a mortal enemy, and you still expect him to stop? All of the students were deep in thought. Qin Fengyang spoke seriously for a while, then his expression softened, but overall it is not bad. I am already very satisfied. These last words are just a reminder to everyone. I am a teacher who came from the battlefield. I never see victory or defeat, but life and death. Now let's all rest, heal and recover. All of the children were excited. Glory. At the same time they were also deep in thought. Chapter 124. Although they were all geniuses, who wouldn't like to be praised? Especially when Qin Fengyang's words were sincere. Everyone could tell that every word he said was from the bottom of his heart. As a child, who wouldn't want their teachers and parents to be proud of them? There were also many students who lowered their heads and reflected on themselves. Why would they be so angry after being defeated? If they were beaten to death, would they still have the chance to be angry? The 3 senior students of Class 19 stood up and laughed. Zuoxiao Duo, welcome to Class 19. The 6 of you are good. Let's fight again in the future. You're not weak either. Look at how you beat me up. Zuoxiao Duo complained in an extremely aggrieved tone. Look here, look here. Look at my handsome face. It's only the first time we meet and you've already ruined it? Don't you know how to show some mercy when you see such a handsome guy? Ha 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 ha. There was a burst of laughter. Zuoxiao Duo, let's exchange crotch-kicking techniques in the future. Feels useful. Haha. Yes, I have other techniques. Do you want to learn? What techniques? Are they tough? Tough. Very tough, ha. Everyone sat down and chatted. The atmosphere was just as lively. However, after this battle, Zuo and the others stayed behind and naturally integrated into the 19th martial masterclass. Everything was natural. When the conditions were right, success would follow naturally. Stairs. Behind the floor-to-ceiling window. Sister Lan said softly. Qin Fengyang's teaching method has changed. Changed? He Yuanyue didn't have any cultivation and didn't hear what Qin Fengyang said. She couldn't help but ask in surprise. Yes, although Qin Fengyang's teaching quality was very high, he was used to having a cold face and intimidating the students. Now it's not like that. Sister Lan said. Originally, Qin Fengyang's catchphrase was "You are the worst batch I have ever taught." But now, Qin Fengyang is saying that you are the batch that I'm most proud and gratified of. Sister Lan said softly, Miss Qin Fengyang has changed a lot. He's like a different person. He Yuanyue was silent for a moment before she said, Not bad. That's a good teacher. The original Qin Fengyang taught people, students. But now, Qin Fengyang is teaching the human heart. The former is the art while the latter is the Tao. The difference cannot be measured by the Tao. A teacher can only impart knowledge, but a teacher can ferry souls. Master. A teacher for a day is a father for life. This was the origin of the saying. Because your parents gave you your life, but your teacher gave you your soul. Not bad at all. Zhuo Duo officially stepped into Martial Arts Master Class 19. As he scanned the surrounding environment, he couldn't help but feel disappointed. The classroom was still the same, but why? Was there no Astral Souls Jade Array? Where's the Jade of Astral Souls? Zhuo Duo looked around in surprise. Qin Fengyang snorted. You should be content with the energy to heal your injuries. Since you're already a martial master, why would you want to enjoy the school's resources for free? From tomorrow onwards, all of you will go out and complete missions to exchange for cultivation resources. You're a martial master now. You're not a baby anymore. Reaping without sowing is a thing of the past. Qin Fengyang's words made all the students burst into laughter. Then they started to heal their injuries. Qin Fengyang walked over with a stack of documents. The 6 of you, 1 for each of you. Hurry up and sign it. Everyone else has already signed it. What's this? Disclaimer. What does this mean? Zhuo Duo was a little confused by the documents that came out of nowhere. Going out to train, completing missions, and even exchanging for cultivation resources is risky, Qin Fengyang said. Qin Fengyang said, It's normal to be attacked while completing a mission or in the process of obtaining something. For example, being attacked by star beasts, other martial artists, or even the Wizard Alliance forces. You might lose your life in all of them. The path of a martial artist is one of life and death. Starting from a martial master, this sentence is starting to live up to its name. In order to avoid unnecessary trouble, you can choose whether to sign it or not. If you sign it, even if you encounter an accident or die outside, the school won't be responsible. Qin Fengyang spoke very seriously, and every word was exceptionally clear. If you sign this disclaimer, you'll officially enter the world of martial artists. A world where the weak are prey to the strong and the weak are eliminated. If you don't sign it, you can leave now to avoid this layer of risk. From now on, you won't be involved in the path of martial arts anymore. You can be a stable and ordinary person. You can live longer than ordinary people. After all, you're still a martial master. The 48 martial master students looked at the 6 newcomers with great interest. The strength of these 6 guys was really good. 48 people on their side had surrounded them, but they still hadn't been defeated. They just didn't know if they dared to sign this disclaimer of death. Every year at this juncture there would be students who chose to quit. Qin Fengyang looked at the 6 of them silently and said, This is the first obstacle on the road to becoming a martial master. It's also the first time you face life and death. Now you can begin to choose. After saying that, he silently distributed the documents. 1 for each person. The school's seal had already been pinned on it, and it was extremely eye-catching. At this moment, the 6 people's reactions were different. Long Yuxing, Wanli Xiuyu, and Moyan didn't even think about it and signed it. Li Zhongming carefully read through it, and then solemnly signed his name. Li Qinglong was also reading it very seriously. After reading it, he said to Qin Fengyang, Teacher Qin, I suggest that we add a few additional clauses to this document. There are loopholes that can be exploited if we stop here. Zhuo Duo read it even more seriously than Li Qinglong. He read every clause word by word and thought it over again. Then he asked, Teacher Qin, approximately how many students die because of this every year? Qin Fengyang said, Approximately how many? 100 or so is always possible. In other words, of the 1,000 or so martial masters who go out every year, an average of 100 or so people die. That's about 1 in 10 people who die in the middle of the road? Zhuo Xiaoduo sucked in a breath. So many? A ratio of 1 in 10. Qin Fengyang looked at him quietly and said, "This ratio of casualties is indeed very high. So, you have to seriously consider it." Zhuo Xiaoduo seemed to seriously consider it for a moment. Then he said, "Can I do something else before signing this document?" Qin Fengyang said, What are you going to do?" "I'm going to buy insurance." Zhuo Xiaoduo said seriously, "There's no guarantee if I sign the disclaimer directly. I think it's necessary to buy an insurance policy. Even if I'm unlucky and die, if the school doesn't pay, the insurance company will, right? No matter how much the compensation is in the end, it's still a sum of money." Zhuo Xiaoduo counted with his fingers. "If I buy insurance, it's 50 times. The veins on Qin Fengyang's forehead began to throb again. He realized that he could no longer control his temper when facing Zhuo Xiaoduo. This miser, he even wants to calculate this money? That's the money of the dead. Even if it's your own money, it's still the money of the dead. Sign it." Qin Fengyang panted heavily. "I still want to buy insurance first. This thing doesn't conflict with buying insurance." "Sign it. If you don't sign it, I'll beat you up." "I'll sign it. How could I forget that I already have insurance?" Zhuo Xiaoduo jumped in fright and quickly signed. Holding the pen, he still wanted to continue and said, "I still have to write a few more words." "Why do you have to write more? Why are you so nosy?" Zhuo Xiaoduo pulled the pen over and wrote a line of words seriously. "I have insurance with XX Insurance Company. The insured is. The insured amount is." Then he circled it in parentheses. Satisfied, he said, "It's done. I'm done signing it." Looking at this unique disclaimer, Qin Fengyang was speechless. His eyebrows twitched, and he had the impulse to throw himself into the wind. What kind of a miser was this? He even calculated the money he earned by risking his life. If he really died, what was the use of the money? After Zhuo Xiaoduo signed the disclaimer, he stood up and faced the class. He said earnestly, "Students, do you see this? The path of a martial artist is full of thorns and death at every step. You even have to sign a disclaimer when you go to school. Your future is really unpredictable, and your luck is unknown. However, you are destined to be luckier than the previous students because you have me as your classmate who knows fortune-telling and physiognomy. Cheer and jump for joy. Students, before you go on a mission in the future, you must come to me for fortune-telling. If there is any disaster or life-threatening danger, as long as you have my guidance, you will definitely be able to turn misfortunes into blessings. There are precedents for this. Everyone, a fortune-telling is not much. It's only 1,000 yuan. 1,000 yuan to buy your own life. Isn't that a good deal?" Qin Fengyang was furious. He said sternly, "Zhuo Xiaoduo, sit down." Yes. Zhuo Xiaoduo sat down and said, "Students, please think about it carefully. This is a matter of life and death. I believe that when you signed the disclaimer, you didn't buy insurance." Qin Fengyang was furious. "You're still talking? You just asked me to sit down. You didn't ask me to keep quiet." Zhuo Xiaoduo said innocently, "I'm such a good and obedient student." "Come out. Good and obedient student Zhuo." "I'm not going out." Qin Fengyang did not say anything else. With a dark face, he carried Zhuo Xiaoduo out like he was carrying a chick. Immediately there was a fierce sound of punching and kicking outside. The scene of punches hitting flesh could be imagined. The older students of class 19 kept quiet out of fear. On the other hand, Long Yuxing and the others were beaming with joy. Their faces were so hot that they looked like they were about to ascend to heaven. "Your boss is being beaten up. Why are you so happy?" One of the taller students was puzzled. When they were fighting just now, the other party was clearly a group that was enviably united. Why was it like this now? Chapter 125. Long Yuxing chuckled. "You don't know how badly we've been beaten up by him every day. But him being beaten up by Mr. Qin is the happiest thing we've seen in a day." The other four nodded repeatedly, nodding their heads vigorously. They said from the bottom of their hearts, "Yeah, we're so happy to see Zhuo get beaten up. The older students of Class 19 were speechless. Swishaoduo was dragged back with a bruised face. His whole body was swollen and he was no longer handsome. Let's take a 10-minute break. Then we'll practice on the field, Qin Fengyang said. The whole class looked at Swishaoduo sympathetically. He wouldn't be able to recover in 10 minutes. Teacher Qin's gaze was clearly meant to mess with this guy. Swishaoduo didn't dare to slack off. He closed his eyes and started to heal himself. He was racing against time. It was too miserable. The whole class looked at him sympathetically. Following that, the whole class practiced together. Everyone watched as this guy with a swollen body led his underlings all the way up, from the last few places all the way to the top 6. There were only 2 words to describe it: unstoppable and invincible. After there were no more opponents, the 6 of them started to fight among themselves. The 6 of them were divided into 3 pairs. They fought until the sky darkened. Their faces were swollen and they were limping. Swishaoduo with panda eyes took the first place. Long Yuxing took second place with a slight advantage. Yu Moyan and Wanli Xiu tied for third place. Li Zhongming didn't take fifth place. He was replaced by Li Chenglong. During the fight, Li Chenglong suddenly used a strange punch that had never been seen before. Li Zhongming had never seen it before. He was stunned and lost. This time Li Zhongming was at the bottom. He was so angry that his lungs were swollen. Just you wait. Li Chenglong was immersed in the joy of killing Li Zhongming. He said smugly, just you wait. Ha ha ha, next we'll focus on Yu Moyan. Who will care about you? Yu Mo Yen rolled his eyes, pretending not to care, but he was nervous. He had to work hard in his cultivation for the next few days. If he got hit by swollen, it would be embarrassing. Li Chongming was a good example of this. Since he had to complete missions to exchange for cultivation resources, there would definitely be an exchange table. Swishaoduo and the other 5 held a reward list and studied it for an entire afternoon. What Swishaoduo valued the most was the gravity room. The gravity of the gravity chamber starts at 5 times the normal gravity. The usage requirement is 100 mid-grade astral souls jades or 10 contribution points. Can be used for 1 hour. The price of using the 10x gravity room was 1,000 pieces of astral souls jade or 50 contribution points. The highest level of gravity in the gravity machine was 50 times. There was no higher level. Other than that, he had also established other things such as the astral souls jade, soul returning liquid, astral souls pill, body tempering pill, meridian expansion pill, and so on. Swishaoduo did not pay much attention to it. The only thing he valued was the gravity machine. However, 100 mid-grade astral souls jades were required to use the 10x gravity room for 1 hour. This price was simply killing people. The school's rules were very targeted. It basically eliminated the possibility of using the astral souls jade to use the gravity machine for a long period of time. Of course, if your family was really rich and did not care, you could spend 100, 1,000 or 10,000 yuan to use the gravity machine for a long period of time. In short, all the resources obtained in the endless wasteland, including the stone of astral souls and all kinds of natural treasures, could be brought back to complete missions and exchanged for contribution points. As for the precious items that could be exchanged with contribution points, it included the Realm Breaker Pill. The Realm Breaker Pill could allow a cultivator who had reached the peak of the innate stage to break through the bottleneck and reach a higher level. It was extremely precious, and a single breakthrough pill would cost a whopping 2,000 contribution points. In addition to exchanging resources, one could also obtain contribution points by assisting the governor's office in capturing fugitives and fighting against the UMNO Alliance's spies. However, this method required the official seal of the governor's office as proof. You can really exchange for anything. Swishaoduo had an idea in his mind. The so-called exchange was not specified in any particular way. Generally speaking, one would return to the Academic Affairs Office after obtaining something, and then the Academic Affairs Office would convert it into contribution points. This exchange model is quite simple and clear. It's clear at a glance. However, the choice of weapon for the martial master level is a big problem. Teacher Qin, what about our weapons? We can't go out to fight without a weapon, right? And we haven't reached the level where we can use weapons yet. How can we deal with this? Idiot! Qin Fengyang said angrily. Who forbade you from using weapons? You are just not sure about your natal weapon yet. Do you understand? Natal weapon. Now, of course you can use it. You can use anything you want. It's also during this process that you can confirm which weapon suits you best, and then choose your natal weapon. That natal weapon has to be compatible with your own blood essence, life, and soul. Do you think it's something that can be casually obtained? You don't even know this? Could it be that you're really planning to fight the star beast with your bare hands? Zuoxiaoduo, I'm very suspicious of your brain circuit. Is it really different from the rest? Are you a genius? Are you born stupid? The whole class burst into laughter. Zuoxiaoduo was speechless. Damn it, you should have said so earlier. I really thought I couldn't prepare anything. It's fine if teacher Qin didn't tell me, but why didn't Yin Mao tell me? She has embarrassed me so much. In the afternoon, when Zuoxiaoduo went to He Yuanyue's office again, he was even calmer. Sister Lan was a little surprised by his great improvement in the use of hidden weapons. It was said that a scholar who had been away for 3 days should be looked at with new eyes. How could this kid have improved so much in just one night? It was as if 3 years had passed since they last met. The angle of the hidden weapon was more tricky, and the attack power of the hidden weapon was more powerful. Its accuracy and speed had also improved by leaps and bounds. It was almost twice as fast as before. He Yuanyue and Qin Fengyang, who were watching from the side, were both surprised. Qin Fengyang's heart skipped a beat. He said, "Old principal, do you think this kid?" He Yuanyue nodded and looked at Zuoxiaoduo. She said slowly, "This kid must have gone through a battle last night. His hands are stained with blood, and he has developed a murderous aura. That's why I've made such great progress today, as though I've been enlightened." Yes. Qin Fengyang looked at Zuoxiaoduo's attack. However, although he has a murderous aura, he doesn't have enough murderous aura. Most importantly, his confidence in fighting didn't increase because of this. You're very accurate. He Yuanyue looked at Zuoxiaoduo's attack and said with a smile, "I think this little bastard only took advantage of the battle last night. Or maybe he succeeded in a sneak attack. He didn't face the enemy head-on and lose." That's right. Qin Fengyang laughed. "What do you plan to do about tomorrow's training?" "I don't have any other arrangements. We'll still split into groups according to the usual practice. However, I'll follow them secretly. Lu Jiansheng and 10 other people will be with me." "Do you have other people? Do you have other arrangements?" "No. That's not appropriate." He Yuanyue frowned. After the previous incident, the UMNO alliance will definitely trace the source. Now Zuoxiaoduo is very likely to be one of the UMNO alliance's targets. In fact, I've asked Sister Lan to follow him for the past few days. The UMNO alliance has targeted Zuoxiaoduo more than 10 times. However, Sister Lan has dealt with them all. Going out of the city to train is more than just a few times more dangerous. How can you protect him with so few people? If you were just following Zuoxiaoduo, it would be fine. However, you have to take care of a total of 54 people scattered in different directions. With your strength alone, how can you be absolutely safe? When the time comes, a simple diversion will be enough to lure you away from Zuoxiaoduo. The UMNO alliance is trying to assassinate Zuoxiaoduo? Qin Fengyang frowned and said, "That's right. After all, their conspiracy to a certain extent was started by Zuoxiaoduo. Getting rid of him to vent their anger is a reasonable thing to do." "Sister Lan can't go out of the city tomorrow," He Yuanyue said. "We have other important things to deal with. You have to think of a way to ensure the safety of this training." Qin Fengyang frowned. "Let me think." Speaking of which, he felt a little helpless. According to the past training habits of the martial arts master class, at most, they would send a few teachers in the embryonic breathing realm to accompany them, which would be more than enough. The lineup that he had arranged, including himself, Lu Jiansheng, and the rest of the 10 people, was already an extremely luxurious lineup. If Lu Jiansheng and the rest had not been arranged by Li Changjiang, they probably would not have gone. However, he would never have thought that such a lineup would not be enough to protect Zuoxiaoduo. Who would have thought that Zuoxiaoduo's trip out of the city to gain experience would lead to such a dangerous variable? Even with a soul transformation stage cultivator, it was still not enough to protect his safety. This was really a strange thing. In the afternoon, He Yuanyue talked about the aura examination technique for a while, then immediately let Zuoxiaoduo go. "Zuoxiaoduo, You can use the remaining time to read the faces of the students who will be going out for training tomorrow, He Yuanyue said. Remember to remind me if there is anything that needs to be reminded. Okay, old principal, it will be my pleasure. Zhuo was really excited at this time. Now that it was an imperial order to read people's faces, who would dare to disobey? Large sums of money were about to enter his pocket. When he returned to class, Qin Fengyang immediately talked about this matter. Tomorrow is the mission. If you have any ideas about this mission, you can look for Zhuo to read your faces. Qin Fengyang said humorously, we have such a special resource, it would be a waste not to use it. Zhuo hurriedly added, it will definitely not be used for free. Everyone is from the same family, so the fee for reading people's faces will naturally be preferential. I will give you a discount. It will only cost $500 per person. Haha. Chapter 126. Everyone chuckled in response. 500 yuan? You might as well rob someone. However, there were still a few captains who wanted to invite Zhuo to take a look. After all, it was a matter of life and death. They had to be careful. No one doubted Zhuo's fortune-telling anymore. After all, the old principal had endorsed him. If they doubted him again, they would be beaten to death. 500 yuan. We can't afford it now. A student's face turned green. It's too expensive. She touched her pocket and stuck her fingers out of it. Her 5 fingers were very white and tender. There's no need for 500 yuan. 50 yuan per person is enough. Qin Fengyang directly set the price. He didn't know what this little bastard was thinking. 500 yuan per person? How could he say that? Did he think that everyone's money was scraped from the sky? The truth was just as Qin Fengyang thought. They really couldn't afford it. Don't forget that after advancing to the martial arts master class, they would no longer focus on closed-door training. At least half of their time would be spent outside. On average, they would go out once every 2 or 3 days. The most conservative estimate was that each person would have to look for Zhuo at least 10 times a month for fortune-telling. 500 yuan each time? How much would that be in a month? Wouldn't the families of these students become paupers? 50 yuan is too little, Teacher Qin. Your bargaining is too harsh. Zhuo cried out with an aggrieved face. I'm not bargaining with you. I'm setting the price. Qin Fengyang said faintly. If you think the price is negotiable, then come out and we can discuss it. Cough, cough, cough. 50 yuan it is. 50 yuan is not little. Teacher Qin, there's no need to discuss. Zhuo didn't dare to go out. If he did, he would definitely be beaten up. When it was time to be a coward, Zhuo was quite sensible. When they heard that the price was suddenly reduced to 50 yuan, the captains who were still undecided walked over. A small team of 6 people could be considered as a whole. They only needed to spend 50 yuan to look at the captain's face. It was basically the same as looking at the other 5 people. It was much easier for 6 people to gather 50 yuan. A total of 8 squad leaders walked over. If the atmosphere was not so serious, Zhuo would have laughed out loud. Ha ha ha, 400 yuan in one go. Roar. Sure. Zhuo shouted. Collect the money. Understood. Wan Lixio answered in a crisp voice. She took out a big bowl and placed it in front of Zhuo. Zhuo almost vomited blood. What the hell are you doing? Do you think I'm a blind fortune teller? Amidst the roaring laughter, the first squad leader walked over and placed 50 RMB into a large bowl. Grandmaster Zhua, please enlighten me. No matter what he thought in his heart, he really didn't dare to offend him directly. Zhuo's fortune-telling ability was already recognized by the old principal He Yuanyue. It was a great ability, and now it was really related to the interests and even the safety of his brothers. Naturally, it was not wrong to be cautious. Therefore, he sat upright and still in front of Zhuo. His body was ramrod straight, and his expression was exceptionally serious. Zhao Zhangjun. Zhuo glanced at the name and said, your physiognomy is fine. Although it's a little unlucky, it's not life-threatening. At most you'll be a little injured. It's not a big problem. If you go in the predetermined direction, you'll have a considerable gain. Overall, the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. Well, it should be far more than the disadvantages. Zhao Zhongjun said. Student Xiaoduo, may I ask which direction we should go? Zhou Xiaoduo turned around and wrote a word on the paper. He rolled it into a ball. Look at this when you've reached the predetermined position in your heart. If the direction written on this is not the direction you intend to go, the divination fee will be returned tenfold. Zhao Zhongjun took the paper and carefully put it in his pocket. Thank you. After that, he let his team out of school. Tomorrow, they would not gather at the school again. Instead, they would gather their teams and go out of the city. The second one, Jia Shernan. Zhou Xiaoduo looked at Jia Shernan and said, there were no surprises and no danger. The harvest was very good. This trip can be said to be very smooth. The harvest is much more than Zhao Zhongjun and the others. You're really lucky. He also wrote a note. This is the direction you'll go. After you arrive, if there are any mistakes, the same will be returned tenfold. Thank you. The third one, Song Zihao. Well, you're not too bad. There's not too much danger. No, you're fine, but the vice captain next to you, the one called Zhou Xiaoma, has bad luck on his face. Although it's not life-threatening, it's inevitable that he'll be injured. Pay attention to the injury on his leg. Be careful when you encounter something. Don't push yourself too hard to avoid becoming disabled. Here's your warning note. The rest is the same as above. Okay. Song Zihao nodded and made up his mind. It seemed that he had to bring more things to treat wounds such as tourniquets and detachment pills. If Zhou Xiaoma was really injured, there would be no way to treat him. The fourth one. It's okay. This trip was very smooth. It's just that the harvest was a little less. Along the way, Zhou Xiaoduo saw the seventh team captain. Suddenly, he was stunned and said, you're called Shun Tainan? This name. Your face. It's a little wrong. Gather all the members of your team here. Let me see. After a moment, the 6 people gathered together. Zhou Xiaoduo's heart beat faster when he saw them. These 6 people were actually covered in the same color of black gas. Bad luck was soaring to the sky, and evil spirits were approaching. This was definitely the sign of a death sentence. That's not right. Although tomorrow's operation is for everyone to do their own thing, there are teachers following them in private. There are also restrictions in their respective areas. Previously, when I saw the 6 teams, all of them were fine. And most, they were at the normal risk level. Why is it that when it comes to their team, they are in such an unlucky situation? No, this was not just bad luck. This was a sign that the entire team was dead. How could this be? You're wrong. Very wrong. Zhou Xiaoduo looked at Captain Shun Tainan. This man's eyebrows were unusually thick. The distance between his eyebrows was very small. The 2 thick, dense, and black eyebrows were almost connected together. It was very eye-catching. According to Zhou Xiaoduo's observation, this person's character was extremely arrogant. He always made his own decisions. His temper was also irritable. He couldn't be persuaded. What's wrong? What did you see? Why is it so wrong? In the previous battle, Shun Tainan was brave and fierce. He fought against Zhou Xiaoduo 3 times. Unfortunately, his skills were not as good as his opponents. In the end, he was almost beaten into a coma by Zhou Xiaoduo. Therefore, he was especially displeased with Zhou Xiaoduo now. He even wanted to give him 50 yuan to read his fortune. Shun Tainan muttered in his heart, is this guy colluding with teacher Qin Fangyang to take the opportunity to earn money? The 6 of you look very bad. I suggest that you give up this mission and rest at home starting tomorrow. Naturally, you'll seek good luck and avoid disaster. If you don't want to give up, the activity area must be within the prescribed range. Don't make your own decisions. Cross the boundary without permission. This way you can avoid death. Shun Tainan snorted and said, you are simply spouting nonsense. Every time you open your mouth, you talk about a calamity or a calamity. We are only in the area where martial masters are active. How could there be such great danger? We have also never crossed the boundary. You're simply exaggerating things to scare people. You don't know how to read at all. Give me back my money. He stretched out his hand and took back the 50-star yuan that he had already handed over. He put it into his pocket and snorted. Then he led the team away. Zhou Xiaoduo looked at the backs of the 6 people and sighed softly. He murmured, it's hard to escape from this fate. Qin Fengyang looked at the back and his face turned serious. He quietly looked at Shen Tianan's back. He wanted to go up and persuade him, but after thinking about it, he didn't say anything. Everyone had their own choices. External forces were not a good thing after all. Having Zhou Xiaoduo read his fortune was already an opportunity. If he missed the opportunity and misplaced it, it would mean that he was not fated with the person and had nothing to do with anyone else. Moreover, Qin Fengyang wanted to ask Zhou Xiaoduo if he could solve it. The last team. By Bingbing. The leader of this team was a very beautiful girl. She had curved eyebrows, beautiful eyes, fair skin, beautiful hair and a small nose. She came over with a smile and looked very lively. Your team is fine too. They are safe and sound. They have gained a lot. Zhou Xiaoduo wrote a note as usual. This team has gained the most. No need. I believe you. Bai Bingbing looked at Zhou Xiaoduo's face with her big eyes and said with a smile, Zhou Xiaoduo, since you said that we are not in danger and have gained a lot, that is a sign of great fortune. By the way, can you read my palm? Huh. I want to see marriage. Bai Bingbing reached out and grabbed Zhou Xiaoduo's hand with her left hand. She showed her right hand and grabbed Zhou Xiaoduo's hand. She said, can you read it for me? Zhou Xiaoduo retracted his hand as if he had been electrocuted. He looked around subconsciously and said like a thief, what are you doing? Just read my palm. Don't pull my hand. Bai Bingbing said, won't I be able to see it more clearly this way? Xiaoduo, can you read it for me? As she said that, she grabbed Zhou Xiaoduo's hand again. She did not even call him Xiaoduo. Instead, she called him Xiaoduo. They were very close. Zhou Xiaoduo retreated and dodged left and right. Don't be like this. What's wrong? Bai Bingbing was unhappy that she could not grab Zhou Xiaoduo's hand. She pouted and said, are you avoiding me like I'm a snake or a scorpion? Her team was full of girls. At this moment they laughed and jeered. That's right, Zhou Xiaoduo. What are you afraid of? You are a boy. Such a beautiful girl is holding your hand. Don't tell me you are at a disadvantage? That's right. Our sister Bingbing is the school belle of second high. Zhou Xiaoduo, why don't you just give in? Bai Bingbing's face flushed red. She rolled her eyes and pretended to hit them. What nonsense are you all talking about? Around them there was a burst of laughter that sounded like silver bells. Zhou Xiaoduo quickly stuffed his hand into his trouser pocket. He looked nervous. No. My mother said that I am still young. I can't touch a girl's hand. If I touch it, a baby will be born. Looking for monthly, recommendation, and official subscriptions. Chapter 127. Ha 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 ha. Loud laughter resounded. Wanli Xiu, who was drinking water at the back, sprayed a mouthful of water on Long Yuxing's neck. Alright, I won't tease you anymore. Bai Bingbing grabbed the note and left with her friends. The girls giggled and walked out with their heads held high. It looked like they had won a big battle. The voices were getting farther and farther away. Sister Bingbing, why did you fall for this scammer? Big news. Our Ice Mountain beauty has actually fallen in love with someone. It's normal to fall for him. This Zhou Xiaoduo is quite handsome. Go to hell, don't talk nonsense. Their voices gradually faded away, and the 6 girls walked away in a noisy manner. What about us? Where are we? It's scary but not dangerous. Zhou Xiaoduo glanced at Li Chenglong and the others before taking his hand out of his pocket. Xiaoer, give me a wet wipe. Let me wipe it. Yo Zhou, beauty's hands leave fragrance for 3 days. Are you really willing to wipe it? So unromantic. Zhou Xiaoduo wiped it and sniffed it. He was relieved after wiping it several times. He said with trepidation, what do you know? If I go home with this fragrance, I won't live past tonight. Is it really that serious? TSK, what do you think? The others had gone far away, leaving only Zhou Xiaoduo and Qin Fengyang. Qin Fengyang finally spoke. Zhou Xiaoduo, what's wrong? Do you think Shen Tianan's team is in danger? It's not just danger, it's a life-threatening danger. Death is imminent. Zhou Xiaoduo said faintly, however, this man is stubborn and self-opinionated. He's destined not to listen to advice. Then I'll watch over them tomorrow. It's no use, Teacher Qin. Human strength is limited. Some disasters can't be shaken by human strength. The ominous central palace has reached the top. The ominous energy has entered the heart and soul. The door of life and death has been opened. Zhuoxiaoduo's face was unusually solemn. He said slowly, as the saying goes, good words can't persuade a damned ghost. Asking them to give up tomorrow's mission is the best way to avoid death. But he didn't consider it at all. I told him to pay attention to his own position, and not leave the safety zone because I hope to minimize the effects of the death calamity to the greatest extent and not harm his life. He said I was talking nonsense and even pulled Xiangjin back. It was the same as pulling the firewood from under the cauldron. He was seeking his own death and was destined to die. This is called destiny. Actually, the 50-star yuan fortune that he took away was the true stroke of genius for me. I had completely severed my karma with him, and I no longer had anything to do with him. Zhuoxiaoduo smiled faintly and said, if he had not taken away the gold, there would have been a chance for him to survive. I would have thought of a way to save their lives. However, he did not keep the gold, which proves that he is extremely determined. His stubbornness is a foregone conclusion. Now that things have come to this, even if a deity were to descend, he would not be able to change his fate. Qin Fengyang's expression became even more solemn. Although he did not understand this line of work, he had heard that taking away the gold after reading it was to sever the karma between the two parties, to sever this predestined fate. It could be said to be the biggest taboo in the astral soul's divination business in the mainland. Even if the divination did not work and then came back to rage, it was fine. However, taking away the gold on the spot was a huge taboo. Is there really a way to change this? After all, there are still a few lives at stake. Anyway, there is nothing I can do. Xiaoduo, we are all classmates. If you can think of a way. Zhuoxiaoduo said, Teacher Qin, I understand your thoughts. As long as there is a little room for action, as long as he listens to a word from me, I will do my best to avert the disaster. But the current situation is because he has severed the karma between him and me, making the situation a foregone conclusion. It is not that I don't want to help. I can even say very clearly, Teacher Qin, even if you catch up with these 6 people now and break their legs, preventing them from going out tomorrow, they will still be alive and kicking on the road to death tomorrow. Do you believe me or not? Qin Fengyang's expression suddenly changed. This was not a bad idea. Zhuoxiaoduo looked at Qin Fengyang's expression and could not help but smile bitterly. Teacher Qin, I have already reminded you, but it is hard to say whether you will do it or not, and whether it will be useful. Just as the saying goes, if the king of hell wants you to die at midnight, who dares to keep you alive until dawn? Qin Fengyang hurriedly left. Zhuoxiaoduo and the rest of the 6 people slowly packed their things and prepared to go home after school. Tomorrow, we will gather at the Purple Chi from the east. We will face the Purple Chi from the east with the mountain river tower behind us. It is an auspicious day. Let's set off. Zhuoxiaoduo looked at the expressions of the few people and made the arrangements. Why do you have to do this? Li Chenglong asked curiously. Although the divination shows that this trip will be more daunting than dangerous, there are still risks. Before I leave, I might as well borrow the vitality of heaven and earth and add another layer of thick earth power to protect me. Do you think that my divination is really a trick of a swindler? Zhuoxiaoduo said leisurely. Qin Fengyang flew and changed his appearance. After thinking about it, he even put on a mask. The sun was setting. Shen Tainan and the rest of the 6 people came to an intersection. The 6 of them gathered together to discuss the arrangements for tomorrow. Although Qin Fengyang was far away, his cultivation was much higher than Shen Tianan's, so he could hear everything clearly. He heard Shen Tainan say, tomorrow at 4:30 in the morning, we will depart an hour earlier. We will not cross paths with any of their teams. Okay. The other 5 people were all excited. That's the way it should be. We can get the upper hand if we go early, and the chances of finding a lot of good things will be much higher. If there are really good things, even if there will be people coming to rob us, as long as we delay for a while, Teacher Qin and the others should arrive. The benefits will still be ours. That's right. Shen Tainan was in high spirits. If there are no surprises and no dangers, what can we get? Even if Zhuoxiaoduo is not an alarmist, he must have exaggerated the situation. When swindlers cheat people, they do it habitually. I want to take you to the depths to have a look. Of course, we won't go too deep. Just a distance of 20 kilometers will be enough. During this period of peace, especially after the massacre by 7 kills, very few people dare to go deep. Meteorites keep falling, and there must be a lot of good things accumulated. This is our chance. Okay. The 6 people looked very excited. They were already discussing what to exchange for after they got the contribution points. Alas, Qin Fengyang sighed softly. He finally understood what the problem of these people's death calamity was. Shen Tianan's idea was simply reckless. He actually wanted to explore the depths. Qin Fengyang was still hesitating whether to put his idea into action, but after hearing this, he stopped thinking about it and flew out directly. Bang bang bang. Who is it? Enemy attack. Ah, my leg is broken. Who is it? Leave your name if you have the guts. Bang bang bang. Qin Fengyang finished his work. The 6 students all had their legs broken, and some of them were even showing signs of comminuted bone fractures. This kind of injury was already a disaster for ordinary people, but Qin Fengyang was confident that as long as the treatment was appropriate and supplemented with the recovery ability of martial masters, they could recover in a few days. If he paid a price and let them enter the recovery pod, it would not be difficult for them to recover in a day. The temporary physical pain in exchange for the safety of their lives, Qin Fengyang thought it was worth it. After beating them up, Qin Fengyang immediately left. Now they should be safe, right? Zuo Duo, no matter how powerful you are, you wouldn't expect me to be so heavy-handed, right? After thinking for a while, he took out his phone and called the parents of the 6 students, asking them to be careful and not let their children go out for training. The 6 parents all agreed at once. Qin Fengyang finally left with peace of mind. At the scene, the 6 youths were left in heart-wrenching pain. Shen Tianan struggled to take out his phone and endured the pain as he shouted into the phone, "Dad, I was beaten up, my leg is broken, I'm here. Quickly send someone, it's so painful." The others also struggled to take out their phones to call for help. Only 10 minutes later, huff huff huff. A few luxurious cars, which were legendary in Phoenix City, appeared at the intersection. A few burly men rushed out of the car as fast as they could. They carefully moved these little brats into the car. Bottles of life spirit water and painkillers were poured into them as if they were free. There were even a few experienced martial artist doctors in the car, treating the broken legs. A middle-aged man with a strong appearance was furious. What is going on? In Phoenix City, who dares to touch my Shin Yushu's son? Investigate thoroughly. It's better to be wrong than to indulge. Yes. Broken legs? What's the specific situation? There are some comminuted fractures, but it's not too troublesome. A doctor said. What's the best way to treat it? I've already treated the broken bones. After entering the recovery pod, it'll be fine after a few days of recovery. The doctor said. No. Shen Tianan, whose pain had mostly subsided, struggled to open his mouth. There's still a training mission tomorrow. I must participate. The other students also said in unison, yes, tomorrow is the day to go out for training, we must go. Shin Yushu's dignified face showed some irritation. All of your legs are broken, what's the point of training? Crawling. Besides, your teacher Qin just called, he doesn't want you to participate in the training. Shen Tianan said boldly, Dad, you've always said that the path of the strong must be filled with hardships and countless obstacles. In martial arts training, if you fall behind by one step, you'll fall behind step by step. Maybe you really won't be able to catch up. And we're already lagging behind the other teams. If we don't go tomorrow, we'll be left even further behind. But Teacher Qin doesn't want you to go out. Dad, Teacher Qin has selfish motives. It's said that there'll be an opportunity tomorrow. He clearly doesn't want us to get the opportunity. Shin Yushu was stunned. There's such a thing? Yes, we all know. Shin Yushu muttered. The few of us have better family conditions, we've been pampered since young. Our bones aren't as tough as others. This time it's our chance to sharpen ourselves. Dad, think of a way to heal us in one night, so we can continue with tomorrow's training mission. Yes, we're not afraid of pain. We've already discussed what to do, Uncle Shen, please help us. Shin Yushu's wrinkled face slowly relaxed, turning into gratification. As expected of my Shin Yushu's son. Good. Chapter 128. Since you have such intentions, I will do my best to fulfill your wish. Shen Yushu took out his phone and quickly dialed a number. Hello, Boss Meng? I am Shen Yushu. Boss Shen, I did not expect you to call me. No wonder my 8th brother has been barking nonstop today. It turns out that you have an important guest. I am not an important guest. I have something to ask of Boss Meng. Haha, I am really at my wit's end now. And what is it that even Boss Shen can't do? Haha, just based on your call today, as long as I can do it, I will definitely do it. Shen Yushu laughed and said, Then I will thank you in advance. It's like this, there is a small accident with my child at home. He is injured. His bones were shattered by someone. You also know that I bought the recovery pod earlier. When I bought it, it could only contain mid-grade elixir of astral souls. However, a mid-grade recovery pod is not enough for that little brat to fully recover in one night. But this little brat insisted on going out to train tomorrow. My head hurts. Isn't that why I thought of the omnipotent Brother Meng? If I remember correctly, Brother Meng, you have ordered 2 high-grade elixir of astral souls recovery pods, right? Brother Shen, you have a good memory. I do have 2, but they are with my daughter. The other side pondered for a while and said, Since Brother Shen has asked, there is no problem. I will send someone to pick up your son later. Shen Yushu laughed and said, How would I dare to trouble Brother Meng? I will send him over. Cough cough, there are a total of 6 brats here and their legs were all broken. Brother Meng, I am afraid you will have to pay a huge price this time. The other side laughed and said, No matter how much I pay, it is still not as big as you, old Shen. Don't worry, just do it. Good, I know old Meng is generous. Don't worry, I will pay you twice the cost of the recovery pods. Old Shen, you are slapping me in the face. This is about our child and you still want to talk about money? Don't give me that, it is boring. If you really want to thank me, drink with me tonight. Let us brothers have a good chat, it is better than nothing. If you keep talking about money, I won't do it. Alright. It was a slip of the tongue. Please don't blame me, Brother Meng. Tonight it's my treat. Let's toast to Brother Meng. How can 1 cup be enough? At least 5, 6, 7 or 8 bottles, ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. It's a deal. He put down the phone. Shen Yushu's expression was somewhat contented. Done. Let's go to Meng Group's Shenyu building immediately. The other children's faces were filled with admiration. Uncle Shen is so awesome. Even the richest man in Phoenix City is so polite to Uncle Shen. Everything was settled with just a few words. Shen Yushu laughed heartily, pleased with himself. Shen Tianan's face was filled with pride. This is my father's power. My dad can call the wind and summon the rain in Phoenix City. There's nothing he can't do. The motorcade roared away. The next morning, Zuo got up and rushed to the faucet. After a while, he shook his head and the water droplets scattered like a puppy coming out of the water. He brushed his teeth and spat out a mouthful of white foam. He looked at his face in the mirror. He couldn't help but exclaim, So handsome. Then he wiped his face and walked out. Mom, is the food ready? It's in the pot. Wu Yuding came out of the kitchen and put down 2 metal basins on the table with a clang. The 2 metal basins were only slightly smaller than the wash basin. Zuo stared in shock. In the future, you can use this basin to eat and the other basin to drink soup. Zuo was flabbergasted. Mom? Isn't this a dog basin? Bullshit. Wu Yuding was furious. This is the legendary bowl of porridge that the giants use for breakfast. I had to look for it for a long time before I found it. Zuo was speechless. He secretly took out the 99 Astral Souls phone to check. He was finally relieved. Yes, the Real dog basin was indeed smaller than this. Relieved. He picked up the basin and went to the pot. He took a big spoon and dug hard. At least 4 or 5 caddies of rice went into the basin. It was only half a basin. He dug another 4 big spoonfuls and the top of the basin bulged. Duong. He put it on the table. He put the other basin on the ground and picked up the other pot. He poured out half a basin of soup. Then he put a few plates of salted vegetables on the table. After thinking for a while, he took a tray of steamed buns and put them aside. Then he took out a can of chili oil and poured it into the rice basin. Then he picked up a big ladle. He held the rice basin in one hand and the ladle in the other and raised his head. Duong 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 duong. He drank almost half of the soup in one breath. Then he picked up the other basin and raised his head again. Duong 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 duong. Then he poured the remaining half of the soup into the remaining half of the rice basin and stirred again. He picked up the rice basin with both hands and raised his head. Duong 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 duong. Zhuanglu rolled his eyes weakly as he looked at the good-for-nothing that he had brought up. How could this be considered a meal? Even drinking beer isn't so generous after finishing the rice and soup. Zhuanglu didn't give up. He grabbed a steamed bun and pinched it. The originally soft and big steamed bun was pinched to the size of a plum. He threw it into his mouth and chewed it twice. He stretched his neck and swallowed it. He had already pinched 2 more steamed buns and threw them into his mouth. He swallowed the salted vegetables with his chopsticks and ate a dozen steamed buns in succession. Finally, he rubbed his belly in satisfaction. He murmured, "This feels good. Don't mention it." He picked up a cucumber and threw it into his mouth. Crunching sounds kept coming out. He picked up the concealed weapon bag and the 350 caddy broadsword that Zhuo Xiaonian had prepared for him last night. Duong. He slung it over his shoulder. "I'm leaving. I'm going to train outside the city today. I might not come back for dinner tonight." He pushed the door open and walked out. He heard heavy footsteps on the stairs. It was as if a bear had rushed down the stairs. The door slammed shut. Wu Yuding stared blankly at the door for a while. Finally, she turned her head. He found that Zhuanglu was staring blankly at the messy table. Oh, it was an exaggeration to say that it was messy. All the bowls and plates were clean. Even the skin of the steamed bun stuck to the steamer had been eaten by Zhuanglu. It really couldn't be called a mess. These 2 basins. I wanted to raise a tiger mastiff in the past. I got these 2 basins, right? You wouldn't let me raise a tiger mastiff in the past. Now I'm using these 2 basins. What basins? Don't you know how to talk? These are Xiao Duo's rice basins. Wu Yuding rolled her eyes. You want to eat 40 bowls with a small bowl? Aren't you tired? These basins are so good. Ahem. Okay. If we eat this meal outside. Zhuanglu sighed and murmured. 100 yuan isn't enough? 100 yuan. Wu Yuding rolled her eyes. You're actually calculating money at this time. You're really Zhuo Xiaoduo's father. Money is also very important. Xiaozhua is now at this stage. We can't help him much. What's left is logistics. Money is both the starting point and the end point. Wu Yuding sighed and said slowly, logistics also has its own problems. Now that we're at the stage of the mission, it means the most frightening stage has arrived. Zhuanglu said, actually, compared to us at this time, he's still much more relaxed. Back then we went out for training. More than 300 people went out, but only 7 of us came back. Wu Yuding said angrily, what nonsense are you talking about? Times have changed. How can the situation be the same? If you tell me about the high mortality rate again, I'll live separately from you. Do you think I won't dare to do that? Well, let's talk about serious business now. It's about the blacksmith shop. Zhuanglu immediately sat up straight. Wu Taijiang will arrive tomorrow. Blacksmith shop? Can't you just vacate one of the rooms next to your shop? Wu Yuding said matter-of-factly. The owners of the other shops have been wanting to sell for a long time. As long as you give a reasonable price, it'll be fine. How can I have money? Zhuanglu smiled bitterly. Why do you think I was talking about money just now? Xiao Nian just gave me 600,000 yuan. Wu Yuding snorted and said, is that enough? 600,000 yuan? Zhuanglu was furious. This girl went to do a mission again? What kind of mission could give such a good reward? This time she was helping Master Mu catch a fugitive. That night Xiao Duo happened to be there. Xiao Duo took 2 space rings. Wu Yuding said, this is from the 2 space rings. Zhuanglu relaxed and smiled. So it's robbing the rich to help the poor. Now that I have 600,000 yuan, of course it's more than enough. Why don't we go back to sleep? Zhuanglu's eyes began to sway. Anyway, he was not serious. Nian is still at home. Wu Yuding pulled. She left a long time ago. When Xiao Duo went out, Nian was already following him. Come. This is such a beautiful spring scenery. Swishaoduo carried his big saber and came to the meeting place valiantly. In the west, behind him was the mountain river building. On top of it, the mountain river map was dozens of meters high. It was the map of the entire Yanwu Empire. When it was pulled down from the top, it was directly opposite the rising sun. Purple qi gushed out from the east. Wanli Xiao and the others were already waiting under the big sign. There were a few martial artists beside her, looking troubled. Wanli Xiao lost her temper. How many times do I have to say it? You are not allowed to follow me. We are going to train now. Don't you understand the meaning of training? Other people's families did not send anyone. What are you doing following me? Then she took out her phone and made a call. Dad, ask Uncle Yang and the others to retreat. This is not a matter of discomfort. This is too embarrassing, do you know? Everyone is going out alone. Why do I have to be like a princess and have a bunch of bodyguards following me? Do you still want me to live? I don't care. Just ask them to go back. Otherwise, I will run away from home. Wanli Xiao stomped her feet, twisted her waist, acted coquettishly and raged. Long Yuxing stared blankly at the side. Chapter 129. In the end, the person on the other side of the phone seemed to have compromised. The other warriors' phones rang and they all retreated. Only then did they see Swishaoduo standing in the distance. He was carrying a big sword and posing as if he was going to take the head of a general in front of thousands of soldiers and horses. The few of them cheered and rushed over. Zwa, your axe is really beautiful, Wanli Xiao said. Yes, this axe is really impressive, Long Yuxing said. Boss, you're using an axe as a weapon. Are you planning to imitate the legendary Pangu axe? Li Qinglong said. The axe is really big, Li Zhongming said. Big axe, Yu Moyan said. Swishaoduo's face was as black as the bottom of a pot. Look at it carefully. Is this an axe? He was in a bad mood when he posed so fiercely just now, but only someone saw it. He was getting more and more angry as he spoke. He took the big sword off his shoulder and put it on the ground. He held the hilt and breathed heavily. This is an axe? The five of them shouted as if they had discovered a new continent. If it's not an axe, is it a sword? What do you mean? It's a sword. It's just that the back of the sword is thicker, the blade is shorter, and the hilt is longer. How is it not a sword? Swishaoduo felt more and more annoyed as he spoke. There was a big difference between a sword and an axe. Was it so hard to tell? Moreover, Nian Mao said that it was a sword. Ignorant, ignorant, ignorant. I've never seen a sword with a back as thick as 2 palms. The five of them were confused. Was this really a sword? No matter what, everyone had finally gathered. Let's go. Zwa ordered. He carried the big sword and took the lead, heading north. The moment they left the city, Swishaoduo looked at the time. It was exactly 5:59. Yes, Geely. It was the supreme number if reversed. After the group left the city, they quickly increased their movement speed and ran along the main road for 50 kilometers in one breath. Then they turned into a small path. After walking for less than 10 kilometers, they had completely entered the primitive wasteland. As far as the eye could see, all he could see were towering trees of all shapes and sizes. Even the ordinary grass was as tall as several people and abnormally strong. After walking forward for a while, they arrived at the edge of the barrier. Swishaoduo took out the jade talisman issued by the school and slowly placed it on the transparent barrier. Immediately, he felt a very slight vibration, and an opening that only allowed one person to pass through quietly appeared in front of the barrier. Li Zhongming first. Long Yuxing, Wanli Xiao, Li Chenglong, Yu Moyan, quick, get out. Swishaoduo was the last to go out and immediately put away the jade talisman. The barrier behind him was slowly returning to its original state. This was the barrier protecting the entire Phoenix City. With the existence of this barrier, the meteor would not be able to smash into Phoenix City. It could only slide down into the wilderness after its remaining energy was exhausted. When the 6 of them went out, what they saw was a miserable scene. In front of them, there were wild grass that was as tall as several people. There were also many trees that had been smashed by the meteor. Everything was crooked and slanted. Most of the trees had roots that were as thick as several people. but the branches and crowns had long been smashed into a mess. As far as the eye could see, there was not a single complete tree. The desolation and misery here had obviously greatly exceeded the basic understanding of Zuo and the others. I really should let the people in the city come out and see what would happen to Phoenix City if there were no strong people protecting it. Li Chenglong let out a long sigh. It's just a distance of less than 100 kilometers. The city is full of singing and dancing, but outside the city, it's a scene of the end of the world. You're doing it again. Wan Lixio was dissatisfied. Martial artists go through fire and water to cultivate. Isn't it to protect the singing and dancing inside? As for the extravagance, it's just an inevitable product of the development of society. This is an unavoidable situation in any dynasty. If you get angry because of this, Wan Lixio said seriously, Li Chenglong, you'll only anger yourself to death. Zuo chuckled and said, Wan Lixio is right. Swollen. This problem can't be solved even if you become the king of the world in the future. Let alone the present you. Li Chenglong said in a muffled voice, I know. But I can't help but feel stuffy. Then he suddenly became anxious. Don't call me swollen. All right, swollen. The 5 people replied in unison. Li Chenglong grimaced in pain. He wanted to bite someone very much. However, he didn't dare to do so in front of these 5 people. For the first time, the 6 of them had only advanced 100 meters in the underbrush when Zuo, who was at the front, had already caught 15 to 16 poisonous snakes. The number of poisonous snakes in this wasteland, especially in the underbrush, was simply astonishing. Is there any recycling value for these snakes? Zuo caught a poisonous snake. Then, he looked at its ferocious triangular head and said, Can it be exchanged for contribution points? Zuo didn't remember anything about medicinal herbs, spirit herbs, ominous beasts, star beasts, and so on. Would Zuo need to use his brain when Li Chenglong was here? Wouldn't that make Li Chenglong useless? There is. Li Chenglong's huge reserve of knowledge and his photographic memory played a big role in this situation. The venom of poisonous snakes can be refined and recycled. The venom of 10,000 snakes can be exchanged for 1 contribution point after the successful refinement. Well, the premise is that these snakes must be the same kind. Zuo, you have no less than 5 or 6 kinds of snakes in your hands. You need to deal with them separately if you want to collect them. Fuck. Refining 10,000 snakes of the same kind can only be exchanged for 1 contribution point? Are you kidding me? Throw. Although Zuo had always believed that mosquito legs are also meat, he didn't want all mosquito legs. Not far away, the underbrush shook and a few people came out. You guys are here too. Unexpectedly, they bumped into Zhao Zhongjun and his team from the same class. You guys are so early, Long Yuxing called out. We just got here. Let's go. Zhao Zhongjun waved his hand and said, Zuo, your axe is not bad. It's mighty and domineering. Zuo, this is a fucking saber. A saber. After moving forward for another 400 or 500 meters, they met another half-acquaintance. It was Bai Bingbing. Yo Zuo, your axe is not bad. It's very impressive. Zuo didn't have the strength to complain. Were these people all blind? Long Yuxing and the others remembered Zuo's vow that this was a saber. This was a saber. They couldn't help but laugh until their bodies twitched. On the other side, Zhao Zhongjuan's team, boss, where are we going later? Have you read the note Zuo gave us yesterday? What's the specific direction? Zhao Zhongjun said, I haven't read it yet, but I plan to. We'll start turning now. We won't go forward anymore. We'll go northwest and read the note after we enter. If Zuo can even calculate this, then he's really capable. We'll have to ask him for help in the future. However, if he's not accurate, then we'll definitely ask him for 500 star dollars. Ha 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 ha. The 6 of them went northwest. Although they didn't gain much along the way, they didn't encounter any major obstacles. When it was time to rest, Zhao Zhongjun gathered the other 5 people. Come, let's read Master's note and see if it's accurate or not. Then he took out the note and twisted it open. The 6 of them looked at it at the same time. The moment they looked at it, the 6 of them widened their eyes. Halfway north, turn to the northwest. Small gains safe. The 6 of them looked at each other and couldn't help but gasp. This awesome, really awesome. On the other side, Bai Bingbing and the others were also resting. I'm so tired, so tired. Let's take a rest. The 6 girls chose a clean place and sat in a circle. Hey Bingbing, we've changed direction a few times. Didn't Zhuoxiao Duo say that he can't give us a refund? Let's take a look. To be honest, I don't believe that he has such a remarkable ability. Bai Bingbing snorted and said, we're all classmates. Why are you so serious? You can't really ask him for a refund. Ha ha ha. The girls laughed. Of course we can't ask Bingbing's romantic partner for a refund. We just want to see if he's right. Maybe he's really so resourceful that he hit the nail on the head. Bai Bingbing's face turned red. She snorted and said, you're all so talkative. Nonsense, humph. When she opened the note, 6 little heads stretched out. One of them said, don't tell me he used this opportunity to write a love letter? Ah fuck. After exclaiming in surprise, the 6 girls fell into a state of shock. The note clearly wrote, halfway through, turn west from north. Nothing, turn northwest. Little harvest, not enough. Go north and you'll find something. That's too accurate. One of the girls opened her mouth but couldn't say anything. It's really accurate. This. Didn't we go west first and turn northwest when we didn't find anything? Then, because we still didn't find anything, we turned north again. The 6 girls looked at their current location, which was north of Phoenix City. They only felt that their little heads were numb. There's actually such a magical person in this world. Amazing. He's really resourceful and has the ability to connect with gods. One of the girls suddenly said, Bingbing, you have to work hard. This Zhuoxiao Duo has a lot of potential. You must get him. That's right. You must get him. Not bad, not bad. After yesterday's first contact, you already have a lot of opportunities compared to the other flirtatious bitches. Don't let it go. If you miss it, it'll be gone. Bai Bingbing's face showed a hint of pride. Then she said in distress, he's avoiding me like I'm a snake or a scorpion. Besides, it's only the first day we met. So what if it's the first day? The first day is fate. This is a heaven-sent opportunity. You have to be careful. This kind of potential is not easy to meet. There are so many flirtatious bitches in this school. If you're not careful, this good meat will fall into someone else's mouth. Chapter 130. One of the girls squinted her eyes and giggled. Captain, why don't we all go at him together? No matter who he chooses in the end, won't he be one of us? Bai Bingbing suddenly became alert. She looked at this girl and asked suspiciously, you like him too, right? Yanzi? Yanzi giggled. I think this guy is not bad. He's a good piece of meat. Humph. Bitch humph. You're the same bitch humph. The boat of friendship capsized just like that. Another girl rolled her eyes and said, I think you're all talking nonsense. From what I see, this Zhuoxiao Duo is obviously not enlightened. He needs someone to enlighten him. Otherwise, he won't know how good women are. Well, he can't just focus on women, he has to be wary of men. Nowadays, many handsome guys like handsome guys. Fuck, so you're not only a dirty old woman but also a rotten one. The girls laughed and joked for a while, and then their faces became worried. Indeed, this guy really looked like he was not enlightened. But how could they enlighten him? Bai Bingbing's heart was full of vigilance, especially when she saw this group of plastic sisters. They were all thinking of enlightening Zhuoxiao Duo. This group of shameless sluts. They're already thinking of snatching him from me. They said they wouldn't snatch him from me. No, I have to quickly think of a way to come up with a feasible plan. The other teams that were resting at their own resting places also took out Zhuoxiao's comments. After verifying with each other, they also exclaimed in surprise. Fuck. So accurate. No, this is godly. That guy is not a quack, he's a god. Shut up, if you dare to say Master Zhuo is a quack again, believe it or not, I'll cut you. Well, Captain, what are you thinking about? Why are you in a daze? I'm thinking. This 50 gold coins is too worth it. It's too cheap. Should I strike up a good relationship with Master Zhuo before he becomes famous? Then I can apply for an annual membership or a lifetime membership. If I apply for it now, it shouldn't cost too much. However, it's hard to say what will happen in the future. Oh, Captain has become Xiao Duo. I'm impressed. Fuck, let me ask each and every one of you. Do you want to apply for an annual membership and a lifetime membership? Yes, of course. I miss it so much. I want to die. You want to go for VIP? Look at the authentic version. And after resting for a while, Swishao's team resumed their journey with laughter. In an instant, rumbling sounds could be heard. Swishiao Duo reacted quickly and pulled Wanli Xiao and the others to the side. Rumble. After a long while, the earth was still trembling. As far as the eye could see, a meteor shower was falling. One of the meteors, the size of a human head, smashed into the spot where Wanli Xiao had been standing, creating a hole that was dozens of meters deep. Meteor showers continued to fall around the area like hailstones, incessant and endless. Wanli Xiao's face turned pale, and her heart was filled with horror. If Swishiao Duo hadn't pulled him back in time, he would have been smashed into a pile of minced meat if he hadn't been hit by the meteorite in time. It's really not safe. Li Chenglong covered his head, and his facial features were a little distorted. Wanli Xiao was in no danger, but Li Chenglong wasn't so lucky. One of the meteors hit a broken tree and rebounded. Coincidentally, it hit Li Chenglong's head. Although the rebounding force had weakened and wasn't enough to break his head, he could still feel the pain. Is everyone okay? Pay attention to these newly fallen meteors. Swishiao Duo shouted. Be careful not to hit your head. Although these meteorites didn't pose much of a threat to a martial master, if the meteorites were larger than a fist, they would still be injured if they were hit by them. The few of them worked together and dug out the meteors that had fallen. It's useless. Swishiao's family ran an astral souls shop, so his eyesight was naturally better than the others. However, he was disheartened after just a glance. The one that almost smashed Long Yuxing into a bachelor is the only thing worth mentioning. But at most there's a low-grade astral souls jade inside. Keep it. Whoever wants it can have it, but I don't want it. Long Yuxing threw it aside and muttered. What do you mean by smashed into a bachelor? Let's go inside. It's hard to find good things in this area. Li Chenglong instructed. He was the expert in this area. Okay. The 6 of them moved at full speed and ran forward. It didn't take long for them to run more than 50 miles. The further they went, the more desolate the environment became. There were potholes everywhere on the ground, and there were many traces of digging in the potholes. Especially the big potholes, they were basically dug 3 feet deep and were empty. How can this group of people loot so clean? Don't they know how to benefit the latecomers? How unethical. Swishiao Duo said angrily, go further inside. Don't stop along the way. Qin Fengyang was wandering in the sky, watching Swishiao's team go deeper into the forest like a sharp arrow. We're 70 kilometers away from Phoenix City. If we calculate the radius of 200 kilometers, this is considered an extremely safe distance. Qin Fengyang was very relieved. Swishiao's team had an advantage that other teams didn't have. The allocation of members could be said to be well-rounded, and there were few omissions. Swishiao's cultivation had reached the peak of martial master. As the core leader, he could be said to be the stabilizing force. This was already a big advantage. As for Li Chenglong as the strategist, it was even rarer. Basically, there was nothing that Li Chenglong didn't know. With him around, it was like carrying an encyclopedia with you. Li Zhongming and Yu Moyan seemed to be taciturn, but in fact they were first-class figures in the vanguard. No matter what happened, there was no dispute at all. They only needed to wave their hands and say, go. The 2 of them directly rushed forward. As for Long Yuxing, he was the type who had an exceptionally good view of the big picture. He was born with a keen sense of coordination. However, compared to Swishiao Duo, he was more of a defensive talent. As for the last person, Wanli Xiao, she looked like a careless girl, but deep down she was meticulous and meticulous. She was very meticulous and controlled all the details. Such a team was only at the embryonic stage, but it was already the ideal allocation for all adventure teams. This team's allocation is really good. Another teacher who came with him to guard the team smiled. It is indeed good. Basically, it has all the elements to prepare for war. Yes, especially Swishiao Duo, who is the core leader. This guy looks like an offensive leader, but the caution and carefulness he showed during the journey is really extraordinary. If he can continue to be like this, it will be a great blessing for this team. Another teacher praised. After hearing this praise, black lines appeared on Qin Fengyang's forehead. He wanted to say it, but he was too embarrassed to say it. Caution and carefulness? Swordsmanship was afraid of death. However, he could definitely maintain this state. As for whether it was a blessing or not, it was a little too early to say. Everyone rushed all the way into the wasteland in a spurt of energy. They didn't stop and continued to advance. There are already some traces of star beasts here. Li Chenglong stopped to study a pile of feces. This feces is still very fresh. There are a lot of sour grass seeds and a lot of wild fruit seeds in it. It should be left behind by the single-horned deer. The single-horned deer's attack power is not high, and its overall combat power is relatively low. It can easily poop here, which is enough to prove that there are no dangerous star beasts in the nearby area. Wan Lixio covered her nose and looked at Li Chenglong poking the feces. She looked disgusted and wanted to vomit, but she couldn't stop herself from looking. Aren't you disgusting? You even have to study this. Li Chenglong replied while poking the feces. Disgusting? This is disgusting. This is a clue, you know. There are many things that humans can't find, but some star beasts can. Star beasts often leave a lot of valuable information in their feces. Then what valuable information did you find? This pile only has what I found just now. There is no more. Fuck. Long Yuxing cursed. Then what are you waiting for? Hurry up and keep up. Along the way, Li Chenglong had maximized the benefits of his encyclopedic knowledge. Except for the fact that it was a little disgusting. This guy seemed to be very passionate about studying star beast feces. Along the way, he had studied 17 to 18 piles. Zua! Li Chenglong squatted in front of a pile of feces and shouted, "What's the matter? What did you find?" Swordsmanship covered his nose and came over. "Let's not go forward first. I think there should be something good around here." Li Chenglong spoke, but his hands didn't stop moving. As he poked the feces, a foul stench rose into the air. "Damn! Can you just tell me what you found?" In this pile of feces, there are many three-eared rabbit bones and some venomous snake remains. I can confirm that this venomous snake is a black-boned snake. The black-boned snake is extremely venomous. However, this excreting star beast obviously doesn't care about its venom. Look at this black-boned snake's head and venomous fangs. There is even a strand of hair on it. It should have been bitten by the black-boned snake. Obviously, this star beast isn't afraid of the black-boned snake's venom and still ate it. And it ate many black-boned snakes. Li Chenglong continued. From the shape of the feces, the dryness, and the outer layer of white crystals, I can confirm that this is a three-legged python. Look at the clear tracks here. Even though the meteorites are constantly falling, the footprints can still be seen. This proves that it hasn't been here for long. Swordsmanship sighed deeply. Swollen, I completely believe your conclusion. There is no need to analyze the process. It is still so smelly, how could it have been here for a long time? Li Chenglong replied seriously. That's not what I meant. Smelly or not cannot be used as a basis of time. There are black-boned snakes and three-eared rabbits in the feces. This means that there must be astral soul's intermittent grass around here. You must know that every year when the black-boned snake molts, it needs the astral soul's intermittent grass to lessen the pain of molting. Although the three-eared rabbit moves extremely quickly, its bones are weak and easily broken. Similarly, it needs the astral soul's intermittent grass to heal. Still writing, let's first ask for tickets and subscriptions. Chapter 131. Intermittent grass of astral souls? Is that worth anything? Intermittent grass of astral souls. If it were an ordinary 10-year-old plant, it would require 10 stalks of astral souls to exchange for 1 contribution point. However, 10-year-old intermittent grass of astral souls isn't enough for the black-boned snakes. What they need is at least 50-year-old. As for 50-year-old intermittent grass of astral souls, each stalk is worth 10 contribution points. There's a high chance that there's a group of black-boned snakes nearby. Based on my judgment, this group of black-boned snakes are at least 20 years old. In other words, there's definitely intermittent grass of astral souls nearby. Furthermore, there's plenty of them. Intermittent grass of astral souls is extremely small in size. It's usually mixed in with other weeds and is very difficult to find. Li Chenglong stood up and continued, But we've already confirmed that it's in this area. Just by digging up the weeds, we'll be able to find something. At this moment, his eyes lit up and his voice trembled. Zwa, there's obviously a natural predator like the three-legged python nearby. Yet, the black-boned snakes and three-eared rabbit would rather risk being eaten by the three-legged python in order to stay here. That's enough to explain the problem and confirm the situation. After hearing Li Chenglong's words, Zhuo Xiaoduo and the rest were all excited. How big is the area you've estimated? Zhuo Xiaoduo asked. It should be. Li Chenglong replied, it shouldn't exceed 2 kilometers. As for where the weeds are the thickest, we'll just dig it out. Once we've dug it out, you don't have to identify it. I'll just search for it bit by bit. Alright, let's do that. Zhuo Xiaoduo ordered, dig up the roots. Li Zhongming and Yu Moyan didn't say a word. They immediately took action. The two of them stood side by side and quickly assembled 2 large shovels. With a he sound, they lifted more than 10 square meters of grass into the air. With a shake of their hands, the soil was shaken clean, leaving only the white and tender grass roots sticking upwards. Zhuo Xiaoduo, Wan Lixiu and the rest followed suit. Along the way, they dug up the surrounding grass like a yellow dragon. In the air, Qin Fengyang, who had been paying attention to this side, sighed. Do you see that? This is the effect that Li Chenglong can display in a group. Even if you look at the entire continent, there are very few who can replicate this effect. Amazing! The teacher by the side sighed in admiration. A martial artist's cultivation relies on talent, hard work, and the support of their family. These are already common knowledge. Relying on knowledge outside of cultivation. Although many people think it's feasible, how many people can actually put it into action? How many of them will study the excrement of star beasts? Another teacher sighed. This isn't just a matter of studying 1 or 2 piles of excrement. You have to know the habits of every star beast, be familiar with every food chain, and then be familiar with all their habits. You also have to know what each star beast likes to eat, what it can eat, what kind of environment it likes, what kind of heaven and earth treasures it needs, what it looks like before it's eaten, and what it looks like after it's excreted. Finally, you have to summarize everything. This isn't something that can be explained by the gift of eidetic memory. Other people, even if they know how to study excrement, may not be able to think of so much. But this Li Chenglong, using the traces in the excrement as a clue, actually deduced that there's an old intermittent grass of astral souls nearby. He's a fucking genius. Other people risked their lives and fought until their heads bled. It's already worth it to be able to get 8 or 10 contribution points after one experience. But these guys, with Li Chenglong's guidance, they can get a lot of points just by digging up the grass. This can only be said to be fate and luck. Qin Fengyang faintly said, Li Chenglong's cultivation was shallow before, and it's not like everyone didn't know that he was knowledgeable. Perhaps there were only a few people who really thought highly of him, but Zhuo Xiaoduo has always treated him as a friend. This can be said to be where Zhuo Xiaoduo's personal charm lies. That's true. That teacher was very much in agreement. That's right. If Li Chenglong were in another team, he might not be so dedicated. But in Zhuo Xiaoduo's team, he can do his best. This can be said to be congenial. It's not congenial. Qin Fengyang said faintly, we're brothers. That teacher was stunned, then nodded deeply. That's right, we're brothers. While Qin Fengyang and the others were talking, the people below had already found something. Swollen, there are some light purple grasses in the grassroots here. They're segmented. Is that the intermittent grass? Zhuo Xiaoduo shouted. Don't move. Li Chenglong shouted nervously. Let me do it. Whoosh! Li Chenglong almost rolled and crawled all the way over. You guys come over and see the real thing. Li Chenglong squatted in front of a pile of overturned grass roots. That's right. This is the intermittent grass of astral souls, and it's very old. The leaves of this intermittent grass are very small, and they grow together with ordinary grass roots. If it's not light purple, they're no different from weeds. As for the segmented shape of the grass roots, it's also very particular. The intermittent grass grows a segment every 3 years. In terms of appearance, it's broken and renewed every 3 years. That's how the intermittent grass got its name. This is 1 segment, 2 segments. Li Chenglong gasped. Xiaoduo found this batch of intermittent grass. Each of them has more than 15 segments, and many of them have more than 20 segments. That means they're 60-year-old intermittent grass. Oh my god. Don't move, don't move. Older intermittent grass needs to be separated with a jade shovel, and then immediately put into the jade box of astral souls. I have the jade box of astral souls on my back. Don't move it. Don't move those with 3 or 4 segments. Just leave them here. They'll naturally drill into the soil again. But those with more than 10 segments, I'll put them all away. These are 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm rich, ha. Li Chenglong laughed devilishly. 9. There are 9 older intermittent grass in this patch. Continue to search quickly. Li Chenglong quickly put away the 9 intermittent grass of astral souls. Then he began to finish the work. He checked all the grass one by one. After checking, he immediately put them back, no matter if they were still there or not. On the other side, Yu Moyan shouted, "There's one here too." Then Long Yuxing shouted, "There's one here too." Wan Lixiu said excitedly, "I have one too, I have one too." Zhou Xiaoduo and the others turned around in surprise. They all gave Long Yuxing a thumbs up. "Brother, you've got guts." Wan Lixiu was stunned for a moment. Then she understood immediately. Her face turned red. Other than Li Chenglong, she started to chase after the others. A bunch of stinky hooligans, uncivilized scum. Long Yuxing grinned wretchedly. "I haven't even started yet." Bang! Long Yuxing was kicked away by Wan Lixiu. The 6 of them pushed forward like a bulldozer. From time to time they would shout in surprise. Of course, along with the huge harvest came trouble. The black-boned snakes nearby had been alerted by their repeated actions. They immediately attacked this group of intruders. However, the black-boned snakes were only beginner-level astral beasts. Although they had venomous fangs with Zhou Xiaoduo and the other skills, as long as they were careful, they wouldn't have a hard time. Don't kill them. Li Chenglong continued to cook the intermittent grass of astral souls as he shouted, "The black-boned snake's feces are the best fertilizer for the intermittent grass of astral souls. With the black-boned snakes here, the intermittent grass of astral souls will grow very quickly. With enough nutrients, it can even grow by 1 section per year." The 6 of them who were about to start a massacre suddenly changed their battle strategy. In a moment, the black-boned snakes were tossed high into the air and thrown far away. Until the end. Zhou Xiaoduo pinched a black-boned snake that was as thick as a water bucket. He looked left and right. Is this the king of snakes? Why is it so big? This black-boned snake, which was as thick as a water bucket and over 30 feet long, was pinched by Zhou Xiaoduo at its weakest point. Other than its body convulsing, it could not move at all. Its originally sinister and cold eyes were now filled with fear. Let's release this black-boned snake. Although it can be exchanged for over 10 contribution points, if we take it away, the black-boned snakes here will have no one to rely on. I'm afraid they will be wiped out. Li Chenglong said, "This is the king of snakes. Let it go." All right. Zhou Xiaoduo released the black-boned snake king. This black-boned snake king was obviously scared out of its wits. For a moment it didn't run away. Instead it curled up on the ground. Damn it, don't tell me you still want a gift? It's not like we're here to visit relatives. Zhou Xiaoduo had no choice but to throw an elixir pill into the snake's mouth. The black-boned snake king swallowed the pill and nodded at Zhou Xiaoduo. Then it slithered away. The teachers in the sky exchanged glances with each other. Their eyes were filled with astonishment and amazement. One of the teachers commented, "They are indeed a unique group. To think that they would let go of the dark-boned snake king that they had obtained. That plaything is worth at least 15 contribution points. That's equivalent to the entire earnings of some small teams in a single mission." Another teacher said, "I know that Li Chenglong's idea of letting go of the black-boned snake king is to maintain the ecological balance of this region. This is to prevent the black-boned snakes from losing their support and causing them to be wiped out. But the star beasts in the outside world have their own ways of survival. The ecosystem of this region is extremely fragile and could collapse at any moment. Is there really a need to do this?" The first teacher said, "That's not what I'm surprised about. What I'm surprised about is that Zhou Xiaoduo actually accepted Li Chenglong's suggestion. He's the true decision-maker of their team. This." Qin Fengyang sighed softly. Perhaps this is the way their team interacts. Between them it's more about trust. Since Li Chenglong said it, Zhou Xiaoduo believed it and accepted it. It has nothing to do with anything else. Our harvest this time is pretty good. Li Chenglong counted and smiled from ear to ear. He said, our total harvest this time is 1-century-old intermittent grass of astral souls, 760 to 80-year-old intermittent grass of astral souls, 1950-year-old intermittent grass of astral souls, and 30 to 50-year-old intermittent grass of astral souls. We're rich, we're really rich. The contribution points this time are at least over 1,000. Li Zhongming's eyes darted around, and he suddenly asked Zhua, how are we going to split the contribution points this time? The moment he asked this question, the 6 youths fell silent. Above, Qin Fengyang's body stiffened. He stared at them for a long time. The most crucial moment had arrived. Writing too slowly. I started at 8 in the morning and I haven't stopped since then. That's all. I can't write anymore at night. My head is going to explode. Exploding at 5 o'clock p.m. Begging for a few monthly votes, a few subscriptions, a few recommendation tickets. Brothers and sisters, please support me. Thank you.